Good evening. It is 6 o'clock. We'll go ahead and call this meeting to order. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Saper.
Here.
Councilmember Bailey.
Here.
Councilmember Regrone is out tonight. Councilmember Kane.
Here.
Councilmember Alvarez.
Here.
Councilmember Wells.
Here.
Councilmember Larson.
Here.
Councilmember Click.
Here.
Now we'll have the Pledge of Allegiance led by Councilmember Saper. All right. Now we'll have approval of the agenda. Do we have a motion on the agenda?
So move.
Second.
All in favor?
Yes.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Comments from the public. If you are a member of the public wishing to speak this evening, please come up to the podium, state your name for the record, and please keep your comment to 5 minutes. Good evening, stranger.
Evening. Is this on? Connor Fitzgerald. I don't say the address now. I take it.
It's up to you.
Okay. Fayette Street. How's that?
Perfect.
But it's different being on this side of this. Sorry, but this is the second meeting in a row where I've seen a private business requesting public money above the thresholds outlined by the city's economic incentive development policy. Excuse me, this meeting looks like it's a car dealership project asking for a 75% property tax abatement for the first 10 years and 50% for the next 5. There was an apartment building at the last meeting also requesting an amount above the thresholds. While the incentive does allow for exceptions, it says those should be for extraordinary circumstances. Back in 2024, when the City Council revisited this policy, my takeaway was we wanted to ensure incentives were used to advance the city's long-term goals and benefit their residents. There's roughly 24 focus areas in that policy. They're taken from the Master Development Plan and the City Council Strategic Plan. And to be fair, this project tonight does hit some of those areas. There's some stormwater improvements and I think some road upgrades mentioned. But when I look at that full list of priorities in the incentive policy, I'm not sure that the benefit residents would get from the handful of infrastructure projects at the northwest corner of town would rise to the extraordinary circumstances level needed to go above that threshold. And just with the overarching picture of the city budget's a pretty substantial deficit every year, I wonder, is this sustainable?
Thank you very much. Further public comments? Good evening.
Good evening. I'm Rich Groves at North Kansas City Business Council, and thank you for the opportunity to be here this evening. I wanted to talk about two things. You got my slides up here yet? Okay. So I wanted to talk about a couple of successful fundraisers we had recently that the Business Council had, and I want to talk about businesses in each ward. Good. Yeah, okay, that's good. So we had one fundraiser for two nonprofit organizations that help with food insecurity, the YMCA and the North Kansas City Schools Foundation helps families that can't pay their reduced lunch bill. And North Kansas City High School had a bill of about $7,000 that hadn't been paid, couldn't be paid. And with our fundraiser at the Oak Ridge Family Social Club, which was a miniature golf fundament, it was not a very serious tournament, but it was a lot of fun. And with that, we raised enough to donate $3,000 to each of those two organizations. And so we're really pleased about that. And then we worked in cooperation with John Miller Jr. and Chief Freeman to do a luncheon at iWorks recently. And John Miller and the foundation, or John Miller took care of the cost of the space and the food. And we donated all the income that came in from the registrations for the luncheons. I think it was about $1,400 or $1,500. So we're really pleased about that. And so if we could go to the next slide. So I guess I'm speaking mostly to the new city council people, but I think you probably already know what I'm talking about, but I'll just kind of remind you anyway. So people called residents elected you, but there's probably a silent majority that didn't necessarily elect you, but that you represent them, and that's the businesses of North Kansas City. And there are about 800 businesses, so if you divided that up, you've got 200 apiece. It's not really quite that way, but you've got a bunch. So if you go to the next slide, please, and the next one. And you probably can't read this, and so I'll give you some samples, but in each ward, there's a lot of businesses. And so, for instance, in Ward 1, some examples are Chapels, First Watch, Hellsburg, Safe Haven Security, Sail Away Wine, there's a bunch. And then in Ward 2, things like Atlas Tube, CNC Produce, Chicken and Pickle, just lots of businesses that are there. Ward 3, examples would be Kate's Auction, Davis Paint, one of the oldest businesses in town, First Federal Bank, Mega KC, Mid-America Contractors, and the list goes on. And in Ward 4, the two newest hotels, the Element and Loft and Element Hotels, and the Diamond Conference Center, which many of you have gone to recently, Duke Rentals, Accutech, Old Chicago Pizza, the U.S. Gypsum even, that big building that we don't really know what's in that building. But anyway, there's a lot of businesses in North Kansas City, and you all have some responsibility for those businesses as well as residents. And so I'm sure you will. And we will try to give you opportunities to become acquainted with them, doing this kind of thing each time. And we're working on a manufacturing tour that we hope that you can participate in. We have some excellent examples. We just need to get it lined up for them, as well as a convenient time that you all can do it too. And with your various schedules, that's difficult, but we're going to work towards that. So thank you for your time.
Thank you so much. And again, Rich, always thank you for what you do. We appreciate the letter you send up summarizing these meetings. We know you're watching. Sometimes we'll talk to you directly. But if you ever have a chance and Rich reaches out to go tour some of these places, it's amazing what goes on behind some of these old brick facades in town. So take that opportunity if you can. Thank you. Further, public comments. Good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and Council. Glad you got your hat off
Just in
on
time.
the second
Yeah,
verse.
second stanza. That's all right.
I want to talk about item 18, the Howell Street Pedestrian Plaza that you have on the agenda for discussion, and bring up a few things just to point out. After the Wilson Company presented their report to the City Council about safe streets, which this is in part of that, I got a card from the lady that sent it, and I sent back a bunch of comments to her asking for her input from it. Never heard from them. I went to the presentation held at the YMCA, raised several questions there, and again, gave my card and questions to one of the gentlemen that was presenting. No comments back, no response. I know the mayor and one council member have talked with the school district, I guess, regarding this, but the public has heard nothing about it, which I feel is a mispoint. Part of this is a discussion regarding the pedestrian bike access or shared use. That may or may not be what the pedestrian, can't remember, Pedestrian Bike Advisory Committee recommends for a route from 32nd to Armour. I don't know what, if any, impact is going to happen from the apartments being built on North Holmes, but I know it's going to increase traffic on both 32nd Street and Howell and or Iron, depending upon where they travel. and I think that needs to be dealt with in detail. And I also noticed that part of Wilson's plan for this area was what they called a peanut roundabout, and I see that's not in the plan for this, which makes sense because there's no way a fire truck or other vehicle, even the buses could maneuver around that in the way they travel. I hope this will be something that will be open and discussed with the public in general, rather than just to the council before you start spending money on it. Thank you.
Thank you, and it absolutely will. It's going to be something that gets a lot of public back and forth. Part of what's on here, I believe you're talking about item 18, is about getting some stuff out to the public. That's the thrust of tonight, and we'll talk about that in detail when we get there. Appreciate your comments. Further public comments? Going once? Seeing none, we will move on to the consent agenda. Do we have a motion on the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Yes.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Right, regular items. Item 9.
Presentation on PFAS study by Burns and McDonnell.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. PFAS are a group of emerging contaminants that are subject of a lot of evolving federal drinking water regulations here recently in the news and over the last few years. And so the city, wanting to be proactive with that, got talking with Burns and McDonnell, who's here tonight to present their findings on the report about what that looks like in North Kansas City. So without further ado, I'll hand it over to Ryan with Burns and Mac.
Good evening. Thank you for having me. My name is Ryan Kirkland. It's an honor to be here on behalf of Burns and McDonnell to speak with you about your water and specifically about PFAS and what the city has currently and already done to potentially address anything that's in the water. So I'll walk you through what we've done, where things stand, path forward, okay? Okay. I've been fortunate to support the city for the past 2 years or so on this particular issue. I'm working on it nationwide for Burns and McDonnell. Really want to emphasize that you're not alone. There's some new regulations that have come out in the last 2 years, and you really we're seeing it just across the board, across the country. Okay. So I hope this is informative and gives you an idea about what sort of decisions that you want to make. And know that your staff has been very proactive, and they have really gotten a good jump on where things are right now. So what are PFAS? Anthony mentioned it. A whole bunch of man-made chemicals. There's really not a good definition that I can give you that everybody agrees on of what these are. But they're found in all sorts of different products, and they've been around for a really long time, decades. And so, really sometimes get mislabeled. They're often called forever chemicals. They don't technically last forever, but they last for a very long time. They're persistent in the environment. They're ubiquitous, but not uniformly across the country. And what I mean by that is there are some places in the country that have been or have pretty heavily contaminated drinking water. That's not the case here. And so when we start looking at the concentrations in the water, we're talking about things on the single parts per trillion level. To give you an idea about how much that is, the city has a design rating of the water treatment plant of 7.5 million gallons per day. That's equivalent to about 11 Olympic-sized swimming pools. The amount that we're talking about in the water is less than a drop. It's less than half a drop. Okay, so it's a minuscule amount, very, very small amount that we're talking about. The thing to really know, though, about it, we've seen studies at high concentrations. We know that can cause adverse human health effects. These low concentrations, there's still a lot of science being done. There's a lot of studies that are human health studies that are still being done to see what the potential human health effects may be. Other main thing to realize is conventional water treatment plants don't remove PFAS compounds. They don't really remove them to zero, to non-detect. They may take out a little bit, but they're not going to take it all out. Okay, even at the very low concentrations, they won't polish it off. So here's what's been done so far. In 2024, EPA passed a federal regulation. It's called the National Primary Drinking Water Regulation, or NPDWR, and it comes to us through the Safe Drinking Water Act. And what it basically said was there's a handful of these compounds. We're going to regulate them with numerical limits. Your drinking water has to be in compliance with these limits by about this time in 2029. So everybody got 5 years to be in compliance, okay? You've got a few years, you've got to do some sampling. If you've got PFAS in the water, you've got to notify the public. Well, you've already checked both those boxes because the staff has already done all the sampling that's required and gotten all the data collected. They've done their public notification, so you're ahead of schedule on that front. And so compliance would be achieved by 2029. Of the compounds that are listed, you're currently in compliance with all of them. There's one compound that is close. It's on the borderline, but technically is numerically in compliance as of today. Okay. So this NPDWR, it changed the landscape for the entire industry. Everybody's having to look at it and deal with it, do the sampling, do the things that you all have already done to figure out if they're going to need to change their treatment, install new treatment, look at a different technology or something like that. And so I just want to emphasize you're in compliance and the team is on track, okay? Federal regulations aren't done, all right? They are, you get changing administrations and you get a different take on things. So the current administration is reviewing the existing rule on the books. They're considering some modifications, which could potentially affect what you end up having to do or what you're required to do. It may change your or crystallize your decision-making process if things are to change. But then they could change again in the future. It's kind of a moving target right now. And that's unfortunate that it's not just set in stone. Here it is. It's easy to do. You go and do this and everything's fine. You'll be in compliance. It's really shifting. Missouri, so far, has been following the federal standards, okay? They've been monitoring for PFAS throughout the state for over a decade, which I think has been pretty good. They have a pretty good viewer online if anybody wants to go and see it, and you can look throughout the state and see what the concentrations actually are that have been reported to them. And so really, throughout both of these, at the federal and the state level, North Kansas City is already aligned with those. So that's it. I would be very happy to take any of your questions that you have about our study or the work that we've done or the path forward.
Thank you for the presentation. You mentioned one that was close to the limit. What's
Yes.
that one, and should we be concerned at this point?
Okay, so the chemical in question is PFHXS, and that is a 6-carbon chain PFAS compound. The rolling annual average is calculated at 9.5 right now.
Out of 10?
And the limit is 10.
Nice.
And so you round one time during the calculation, but basically there are 4 measurements throughout the year that the city's already taken, and then you would average those, and then when the next quarter comes up, there will be another sample, and then it would be the most recent 4. And so if it's a little above or a little below, that could swing that 9.5 above or below the compliance limit.
All right. And if we were to tip over that limit, what are we talking as far as like cost to treat, process to treat? Like what would we be getting into at that point?
Right. So right now we've done a conceptual level study on, which is basically desktop, on what I would call the most likely treatment technology. So that's using something like granular activated carbon. It's not the same carbon that you would find in your drinking water filter at home unless you have a specialized one, but it's similar technology. or something like ion exchange or reverse osmosis. These are the type of technologies that you look at that EPA has labeled as best available technologies that are economically feasible, okay? And so we have approached vendors for how much their equipment would cost, and I think in our report, which I believe you all have, just the equipment cost alone is in the millions of dollar range.
Right.
Okay, so it would be in excess of that to get everything installed.
Okay. And as far as federal regulations go, is there any allowance for the fact that we would be spending potentially millions of dollars to remove 0.01 part per trillion of a contaminant across millions and
I'm
millions
not
of
aware
gallons?
of
Okay,
of
no
an
exceptions
option
for that.
there.
Okay, so if we
Yeah.
tip over that,
Yes.
okay, good to know.
Yes.
Councilmember Saper.
I had my environmental engineer review your study
Okay,
and found it pretty solid,
thank you.
except you don't discuss how you collected the samples. I guess they were grab samples, but since PFAS is so ubiquitous in the environment, as you said, how did you account for that? Now, in some ways, it's a moot point because we came in under even if the samples were contaminated.
Sure.
But how do you account for that? How do you deal with that?
So let me address the sampling question
Yeah.
first. So the city participates in a program called the Unregulated Contaminant Monitoring Rule, UCMR. And so every 5 years, the federal government puts 30 compounds that are unregulated on the list, and every quarter, there's a certain amount of facilities across the country that will take their samples and send them to a lab, have them analyzed, and then that gets reported to the EPA through UCMR 5, and I think you maybe also have to report them to the state. Is that you report them to the state as well? And so UCMR has a prescription for how samples are to be collected, and so in this case, they are collected on the finished water, and they have a specific protocol that has to be followed in order to measure for PFAS. The site conducts their own sampling. Burns and McDonnell does not do the sampling. We have observed it, but the site collects the sampling for those data, and then they are analyzed by a third-party lab to generate the actual values.
But okay, get into the weeds a bit. How do you keep PFAS out of the sampling?
Well, you have to follow the methods. It's not the easiest thing to do. I've done something very, very similar to it, but yeah, you have to follow the methods. So there's certain things that you can't use. There's certain type of containers that you have to use in order, and it's a pretty strict protocol.
Okay, thank you.
The analytical method is very sensitive, and so there are other quality control measures that the lab will do to ensure that the data are within a band, and so that would be another sort of secondary step to ensure that the data are accurate.
With something so shedding in the environment, it can be hard to collect samples. And
I
get
agree.
them clean.
I agree.
Thank you.
Thank you for your comment.
Is there anything we can do to mitigate additional PFAS? I mean, are there steps that we could be taking to be proactive?
So the city is on groundwater wells, and so it's just there in the groundwater. It's at such a low level that I think that would be challenging to influence the groundwater enough in order to make sure that you're always below the compliance limit.
I've got your report open here. So is the PFHXS one, is the one we're teetering on the edge of?
That is correct.
So I'm looking at the measurements over time, 7.6, 5.2, 2.9, and then very quickly up to 13.1. It seems to jump around quite a bit, and you're saying if it's 4 in a row rolling average
Yes.
that we could get hit on. How long, I mean, reading these results, it looks like the numbers are going up as a trend line. Would that suggest that something is getting into our water supply, or is that just the sampling potential, as Councilmember Saper, potential sampling? You just caught a bad sample.
It could be variability. just variability in the water that the other ones you caught it too. There could be some seasonality to it. There are a lot of things that influence the fate and transport of PFAS.
Goodness. Yeah, I'm trying to like draw any parallels to seasonality.
It is
Nothing seems to.
Very, very difficult.
Yeah, that's wild. And to have just to hit, I mean, if we get one more, I mean, we're going to lose a 9.2. That if that goes over 10, we're done. Like we're in violation. Oof.
Well, you're not in violation yet.
We're in. Okay.
You're
it
not
would be.
yet. It would not be active until 2029.
Oh. All right.
You would,
So we'll have time.
you have time. You have 3 years from about now
Got it.
to do that.
Figure it out.
So we've recommended just to continue sampling. I think Anthony has been in agreement with that.
Sure.
And just continue to look at it, monitor it.
Councilmember Bailey.
Just for my own knowledge, and people who are hearing these numbers, if I took the exact same sample, baselined it, and ran it 4 times, how much variability am I going to get on the exact same sample?
From the analytical method alone, a lot of times I've heard plus or minus 30%. And that's just the instruments that they use and how accurate they can be.
Yeah, that's better than I expected.
Councilmember Wells.
Yeah, on this PFHXS again.
Yes, sir.
What are the known sources for that?
Well, originally it was used in many different things. Firefighting foam was one of the big ones. But it was found in a lot of different products. It's largely been phased out of production in the United States, but it could still enter our country from other countries, and that gets into a different set of laws as to what's allowed and what's not allowed under those laws for products that enter our country from overseas, where FHXS could still be manufactured and used. But I would say firefighting foam was probably the most prominent use of it in our country.
And so that's not manufactured, the firefighting foam is not manufactured that way here in the U.S. now?
Not anymore.
Okay.
Not anymore. There could still be stockpiles of it, residuals that were used for other things, but and the same goes for some of the other compounds. The PFOA, PFOS has largely been phased out of production in the United States for quite some time, and the data have shown that concentrations in human blood have been going down for those compounds as well.
Thank you.
But it's still in the water.
Forever chemicals, quote unquote. Further questions? Seeing none, thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
All right, moving on to item 10.
Economic Development Incentive Request Presentation for Oaks Auto Plaza Redevelopment and Expansion Project.
All right, who's got this one?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'd like to introduce Kurt Peterson and Dan Oaks.
Good evening.
Good evening, Mayor. Hello, everybody. Nice to see you. My name is Kurt Peterson. I am here on behalf of, to be official, DONKC LLC, which is the entity that owns the properties we're going to be talking a little bit about tonight. And then the owner of the entity is Mr. Dan Oaks, which is back in the back row there. I also, on our project team that's helped us put this proposal together, this project together, we have our civil engineer, David Eichmann with Olson in the back, and then also Scott Sloggy, the owner of Sloggy Architecture. So, and I do have some slides. Thank you for putting that up there. That's our team. I like to start when ultimately I'm going to describe a project for you and then also a proposed public-private partnership. And I think you have to start in these instances with who would you be entering into a partnership with? Because it's not fair otherwise just to dive into the project. So I want to spend just a minute talking a little bit about who is this Dan Oaks. I'll start by saying that he used to be in energy trading as a young man and started getting into the car business. And he started, I found this pretty compelling, about just over 15 years ago with a $50,000 line of credit and a one-man show. He was employee number 1. And he moved, let's fast forward 7 years. Imagine there was a lot of hard work in there. And Dan's used car business, which is what he started in, became Dealer of the Year in Kansas, which was a big deal after 7 years of starting on humble beginning. And then a year later, he was one of the dealers of the year in the United States, recognized for his business. In 2018, he purchased his first new car dealership, and late in 2018, he purchased Jack Miller Kia in North Kansas City, and he rebranded it to Oaks Kia. Since that time, Oaks has been recognized repeatedly, including by Ingram's and by Kia for its fast growth and for its quality. Kia named Dan recently, in the last several years, to its National Advisory Council. It's for kind of auto dealership geeks. That's a really big deal. That's recognizing that he's one of the prominent dealers in the United States for that manufacturer. And again, why did I share all this with you quickly? I wanted you to know that you have an extremely hardworking man that's talented, he's self-made, and he's dedicated to excellence for what he's been doing so far in North Kansas City and what he's proposing now. I also tagged onto this as just a baseline statement at the bottom of the slide on the screen, the annual tax payments that are paid right now to the taxing jurisdictions by Dan in these properties that he owns that we'll be talking about, and that's about $128,000. Again, as we talk, you'll see it's just kind of a baseline I like to put out there.
Is that property tax or sales tax or
That's
both?
property tax. I didn't say anything about sales tax.
Okay,
Yes, sir.
just making sure.
Yes, Mayor. One more thing before we move into the projects, if you let me. I find this compelling. Some of you might as well. Not all businesses give back to the community. Dan, without anybody looking over his shoulder or being in some arrangement with the city where he has to do it, does a lot. I asked one of his folks at the dealership, I said, can you just give me for this last year, you know, what has Oaks Kia been doing? What has Dan been doing in the community? And I could pull it out here. It's 3 pages, actually goes on to a 4th page of an email in bullets, but I decided to give you the 30-second version, and you can ask me questions if you want. So there's lots of support for Northland area schools. That's a big focus of Dan, ranging from, and I went through all of them and just lumped them together. There was a lot of sports, graduation ceremonies, student journalism, and then a lot of classroom grants for specific teachers to be able to use as they see fit for their students. Also, other causes this past year that Oaks Kia and Dan Oaks has been involved with, involving in the area here, animal shelter, foster care, food drives, veterans support, Ronald McDonald House, and heart disease. And those are just the ones I picked because I thought they were especially compelling. So again, I'll move off that, but I hope we start with knowing this is the man that's proposing to double down and do more in North Kansas City. Now, to the project site. You all recognize Burlington running north-south and curving to the west there, eventually out of the city to the north. But I want you to focus on the numbers 1, 2, and 3. I grouped, those are all properties owned by DO NKC LLC, Dan Oaks, and it forms the basis for the pieces of the project we want to talk to you about tonight. So the current uses, right now there's 4 buildings across those 3 parcels that you can see on the screen. Parcel 1 is the one that has the 2 buildings. The other each have 1 building. Today, Project Area 1, just to get your mind around, I know you drive by it a lot, but has the biggest building on there is the main new car sales for Oaks Kia, and then you have a smaller building that's just an ancillary building helping with new car sales. Project Area 2, as you look to the north, is the used car building, and Project Area 3 there in the back is just frankly underutilized. There's some different things they do in the back there, but it's just an underutilized older building. Now, the challenges. Dan Oaks wants to rebirth the aesthetics of the auto plaza that's here, all those properties. He wants it to look totally different to anybody that's passing by. But it's really financially challenging to do that. The economics and the return on investment are not super. He could do a lot better in the short term and medium term, probably on the NASDAQ or something, seriously, with the amount of money he's talking about. Plus, if he's going to do it, I've been working on this with him for maybe 6 months, looking at design and talking to city staff, how can we do this better? And he was convinced if he's able to do it, if this ultimately is something the city embraces, he's not going to do it without being excellent. And that includes doing some public improvements, dealing with stormwater, which I'll talk about in a minute, and also doing upgrades to the public street that we'll zoom in on in a minute that bisects these properties called Design Drive. That's a public city-owned street. But doing that takes something that is financially challenging. It makes it even more difficult. And there's really no direct return on investment when you put, as you'll see, over $1 million into those improvements. But it does help the city and it helps the city at large. But I didn't come here just to talk about the challenges. You got to set the table. I wanted to talk about solutions. So the last piece that I'd like to present to you before we just answer any questions that you have would be to talk about the project itself and then the proposed public-private partnership that would actually sort of make it come to life. So first, we'll start with the site plan. The overall project, as I alluded to a moment ago, is divided into 3 parts, and you'll see them. You can see the labels in red: Project Area 1, Project Area 2, Project Area 3. And because we really wanted it to pop off the page what we're proposing to touch and improve and beautify, you can see wherever there's dark, almost black, dark gray, that's property we own and property that we're improving. But I'll zoom in for you too. Just wanted you to have the big picture context. So let's go in order. Project Area 1. So we zoom in, you can see it's highlighted in a yellow boundary. We would start by demolishing the 2 existing buildings that are there today. We would build a new state-of-the-art Kia new car dealership, which would be, we're still playing around with the exact square footage, but at least 53,000 square feet. Again, for those of you that know car dealerships, that's really big. We have the expert back there, but that's like Mercedes and maybe just a couple other dealerships that go that big. It'll be beautiful. It'll have 20-foot tall glass front, as you see it, for the showroom that faces Burlington. It'll have administrative offices for 20-plus employees on 2 levels with an elevator, including training facilities. It'll have 30 bays of service operations. It'll have a new parking lot with new asphalt curves. It will have new gutters with landscape islands, irrigation, new lighting, enhanced landscaping, and then a net increase in pervious, so water passes through, surfaces to reduce water runoff, which we all know is really important, especially in these parts. New monument signage, underground detention, and this, I'm going to pause on this one. So I just said we made it, do you ever do this, the double negative? More pervious, less impervious, that's right. So in general, as you've seen projects, that means you don't, in general, not a stormwater expert, but Mr. Eichmann is, usually in projects, that means you don't have to do anything new. You don't have to do detention or anything like that. That's the same here. But instead, Dan has chosen to put an underground detention, which, as you all know, is very expensive, and not do a little bit, but do a ton to help with the whole stormwater drainage in the area. Nothing to do with this project. A couple quick renderings before we move to 2. That would be that new building. As you can see, that's you're standing on Burlington, kind of looking back at the building. And now let's move on to Project Area 2. Project Area 2, as you can see, is on the north side of the site. This would be a complete facelift and renovation of the existing just under 12,000 square foot building that is there today. It was that former Subaru dealership building. And this would be the home of the new pre-owned dealership for the Oaks campus. The exterior improvements to the building facade would be in the same color palette, so you really know that it's, what's architectural word, harmonious with the new dealership building that I just described to you. Also, we'd have a complete interior overhaul, including a new car wash, upgrade in service bays, new administrative offices, and then a totally newly renovated customer showroom. There'd be a mill and overlay over that parking lot, new landscaping in the islands, irrigation, new lighting, and then some perimeter landscaping there. Also would have new monument signage. Let's take a quick look at the image there. So again, that we're looking to the south. That facade is facing Burlington to the north. Gives you a look at that. And then lastly, the third part of the project, as you can see on the screen, is kind of tucked in the back. You probably don't have a reason to ever be back here, I'm imagining, unless you play tennis and come back there to that facility. So this is renovating that existing building. It will be the intake center for all new car preparation and reconditioning of pre-owned cars that are taken in. It'll have a complete facelift. It'll be a renovation of the inside as well. It's about little over 18,000 square foot building. And the exterior improvements same thing, will make it harmonious. It'll look really nice with the rest of the campus. There will be a new photo bay for internet sales operations that will be put in, installation of 8 service and detail bays, administrative offices, break room, parts storage, and then on the parking lot, like you've heard at the other 2 pieces, we'd have new asphalt curbs, gutters, irrigation, new lighting, enhanced landscaping, again, a total redo. There would also be, much like the big new building, Project Area 1, there would be a stormwater detention facility that would go above and beyond what city code requires. Now, there's a little difference here. First of all, it's smaller because that's a smaller footprint. Here, we actually do have a little bit more impervious, but then we go big. We go way bigger with underground detention to not only take care of that, but to take care of absorb some regional stormwater as well. Lastly, we will do a partial mill and overlay. You can see that that's funny, tennis court, sounds funny, but the private drive that runs just to the northern part of Project Area 3 is called Tennis Court. And you can see there's a little notch out if you're looking closely, the light gray. Yeah, got it. Mayor has it. And that's because we've been reaching out to the owner of the green patch there to the north of Project Area 3, and we just can't make contact. If this project gets supported by the city and it moves forward, we're hoping that people from the dais maybe even know anybody reach out, because if we can get their support, we'll pay also to redo that light gray portion of Tennis Court. We just don't have the right to go on their property and do that. So little commercial there. We'd like to do that if we can. Renderings here. It's looking all new facade, parking lot, everything I described. And then the last, before we move on from the project and talk about the public-private partnership, is to talk about Design Drive. You can see it highlighted in yellow. It's really the spine for these properties. It is a public street, so owned by North Kansas City, and we want to put a real significant amount of money into that to make that just as beautiful as the rest of the campus. So we will put sidewalks on both sides, street trees all along, and then a total refresh of the surface. And I have, I think, 2 images of that to give you a sense, kind of get your bearings here. You're looking northwest from Burlington, and you can see beyond the new car dealership. You can see Burlington. You kind of have to squint a little bit, see the sidewalks and the trees and all that, and then one more angle of the same thing. Looking back the other direction, looking southwest from Burlington Street. That's a little more zoomed in so you can see it better. And it runs the full extent from Burlington all the way back to the southern extent of the property that we control. Next, before I wasn't totally accurate, before moving into the proposed public-private partnership, I want to talk about timing, because that's one of the #1 questions people usually have. So again, if there's support, and this was able to ultimately, not tonight, this is a first step, but ultimately be supported through an entire process by the city, later this year, we would want to start on project areas 2 and 3. So I'm saying numbers, you can see it again. Project areas 2 and 3. The reason we start with that is we then have to finish those, move the new car sales so there's not an interruption so anybody thinks about going somewhere else. We move the new car sales back to those buildings. We work on the brand new dealership in front in Project Area 1, and then we move everything back and everything's put in the right place. And that takes, from the time we start, around 18 months to 24 months to do everything. Now, project benefits, because you can't ask for a partnership unless the city and the city's your constituents, the city's residents, are better off. And so I have a few items I just wanted to highlight, because if this doesn't sound compelling, then you shouldn't support it, honestly. That's what it comes down to. So the first is, I've mentioned it several times, you heard about the regional stormwater improvements from putting in underground detention in Project Area 1, Project Area 3, that have really nothing to do with, other than a little bit of Project Area 3, right, we're doing because we increased impervious. But the rest of it is all just to help the area, and that's why I have my stormwater engineer here. I am not exaggerating to say it has a truly, truly significant impact on this area's stormwater and the overall plan by the city to deal with the area's stormwater. The second is the improvement of a public street at private cost. Again, Design Drive is absolutely not controlled by us. We'd have to get your permission. It's otherwise something the city maintains, like every other public street, but we'd like to put our private money into it and make it beautiful, like the rest of the campus. Those 2 items, to give you context, I'm getting ahead of myself, but just so you'll remember this, the public-private request, when you take those dollars and today's dollars, half of that benefit that we're asking for would go to these 2, I'll call it public things. That's how much Dan is doubling down about that in partnering with the city. And we can dig into the details when we put numbers up. Third is benefits to the city. Beautification of this important gateway corridor. I don't need to sell you that this is an important entry point from the north and just an important area of the city, and we want to make it beautiful. And the context is, again, from the very beginning when Dan and I started working on this, he said, I want to find a way to make this another generation or more. I want to be here. I want to double down. If he doesn't do it here, he has to do it somewhere. And we don't want others coming here, honestly, that are used car dealers that aren't going to make it beautiful like this. So the point is, we want to be the ones that beautify this and make it this way for the next generation plus. Next, the idea of attracting visitors to North Kansas City. You all know that people come here to see Dan's dealership, and when they come, I think, and you may know better than me, but I think a lot of people look around. They may not, some of them may not otherwise be in North Kansas City, and I'm just going to bet you they're going to like what they see. I think some people, it's not a stretch, certainly have lunch, right? Do some commerce, but some people may end up here. Some people may even end up living here because they come here because of Dan's business. So attracting visitors to patronize businesses here in the city. Job creation, we're not only retaining about 112 is what we're at right now in terms of jobs in North Kansas City, but we estimate over the next 2 years, 30 to 35 new jobs that would be able to come here to the campus if we're able to move forward. And then lastly, the idea of just growing the property tax base. It's true, what I'm about to roll out is a request that does share the property tax base for a certain number of years, but the useful life of this campus will go well beyond the 15 years that you'll hear us talk about in just a second. And we hope it acts as a domino effect, as we've seen in many places. When you put a huge investment somewhere, it can spread, right? It can give people the idea of more investment in the corridor. Okay, the public-private partnership. This is the last piece. Up on the screen, there's a summary. There's two parts to it. The first is a request for a real property tax abatement. The term would be 15 years, according to city policy. But then the percentages would be 75% for the first 10 years, which means there'd be a 25% payment in lieu of tax. And then in the last 5 years, years 11 through 15, it would be a 50% real property tax abatement, which would leave a 50% pilot to the taxing jurisdictions. That was one of two requests. The second request is from the same Chapter 100 tool, but it's sales tax exemption on construction materials. It allows Dan to reduce construction costs by, it ends up being something usually about like 3% or something like that, because he doesn't pay state and local sales tax on lumber and metal and all the different materials for construction. So we would apply this structure, if approved by the city ultimately, to each of the three project areas as we move through those phases. So we acknowledge, it was great that the gentleman, he kind of stole my thunder, that spoke earlier. He said, well, this is going over policy. Absolutely, and I want to emphasize that. This, while it fits the 15-year term, that's within policy, the first 10 years policy is up to 50%, and we're asking for 75% abatement. And then the last 5 years, typically the policy says would be 37.5, and we go over that to 50%. So we hope, we're not ashamed of that, and that's ultimately absolutely the city's decision on whether to support it. But our vision here is that we go above and beyond, unabashedly. We didn't just come in and say, here's what we need to make our pro forma work. We came in with staff, as they'll say, and met several times, listened, definitely heard a lot about stormwater, encouraged us to figure something out. And then Design Drive, taking that on, we said we want to go big. And like I said before, I'll only say it one more time. Half of what we're asking for in today's dollars would actually go towards these stormwater improvements and Design Drive. So given the substantial private investment by Mr. Oaks, which is approximately $25 million, the anticipated benefit to him of these requested incentives, when you compare it to his investment, is less than 10%. So it's meaningful, it makes the project work, but I want to give the sense to people that might be listening, this is not a corporate giveaway where you come in and say, will you write me a check? There's actually no checks written. And it's certainly not saying, hey, will you pay for half my project? This is 10%, but it's a critical 10% for this project to move forward. Lastly, I just wanted to put up, to be really specific, after you ask any questions you have of me or the team, our specific request tonight is not to, of course, approve a project. It's if this seems compelling for staff to dig in with us, we would ask you to allow them to enter into a funding agreement with this so we can pay your professionals to evaluate the proposal, and then we'd like to go meet with the school district with professional staff if you supported that. Thank you. I know that was long. We've been working on it 6 months. Thank you for listening, and Mayor, we'd be happy to answer questions.
All right. Thank you for the presentation. Thank you for bringing this to us, and thanks for the work you're doing on this. Thanks for all you're doing in the community too, Dan. Appreciate that. Seeing the giving back the Ronald McDonald House, Casey Mo Angels, great pictures. Okay, a few questions to clarify numbers that I'm seeing in the report and some stuff that I saw in the application. There's a question 6 that asks about the status of the property. It says applicant has acquired all the parcels. But in the budget for the project, there's $6.8 million
Great
for
question.
acquisition costs. Is that already done, and that's kind of a payback, or how does that work?
So I'm glad you said it because there's only so much time and I didn't
Sure.
roll that out.
Yep.
So do you remember when I said about a $25 million investment? I didn't say 32. Yep. The reason is because when I'm talking about what Dan is going to do, it's estimated at 25 million. We always put in project budgets like this what our acquisition cost was for all the property, because it does provide context. But I like to use the 25 million. Like when I said 10%, I didn't take the requested incentives against the 32. I took it against the 25. So they're both true, just a different way of looking at it.
Awesome. Okay, that dovetails into the other part I wanted to clarify. As you mentioned, 10% of the private money, that's about $2.5 million
Exactly.
estimated
Roughly,
value
exactly.
of the
That's
tax
right.
incentives
That's right.
over the 15 years.
And Mayor, just in case anybody ever got confused, because we're all about transparency, if Dan outlays all this money, he gets over 15 years, he gets savings, right? Sales tax exemption up front. So he puts out all the money. If you add all that money up, it's more than $2.5 million. But from a financial sense, with our bank and all that, you always discount it back. So you heard me say a couple times today's dollars, because I always want to be very specific. That's $2.5 million in today's dollars.
Yep, that's present value cash flow discounted. We'll dig into that with the financial advisor if we get to the point with the request for tonight. Also on here, I see the estimated future tax payment of $421,000 annually post-construction. That's the full amount. So the pilot would be 25% of that number. Is that what we're figuring
Yeah, I'd
out?
have to get my actual spreadsheet out to say yes to exact numbers, but that's the concept, that's the way we model it, and so that we can then say this is what a pilot would look like.
So I've got the estimated post-construction assessed valuation, $421,114 of the 3 parcels. Just to clarify for the people watching as well, incentive requests like this do include a continued payment in lieu of tax. And currently, as you noted the first slide, $128,000 being paid annually. 25% of that residual estimated value is $105,000. So even at that point, we're still pretty close to what you're paying now, with the payoff down the road of, if all this goes, there'll be more money coming into the coffers at the end.
Mayor, can I add before you go on
Sure.
from that? We actually, and again, there's so much to say and try not to go on and on. We actually held the base harmless. So when we figure out increment, that is what we're asking to be abated. It only starts over what's being paid today.
Got it. Okay, very good.
Which is really important.
No, yeah, that makes a difference as well. Okay. So the request on the table is to enter a funding agreement similar to what we approved last week for the Park Lofts 2, to have them pay for our financial advisors to look at the proposal and tell us how the numbers would stack out. Do we have other questions on the meat and potatoes of the project? Go ahead.
Hi, Kurt, and thank you. I appreciate you coming to talk to council tonight. I just had a couple of quick questions. So there's 2 pieces, right, for public benefit, right? The stormwater detention, at least in terms of capital improvement, right? So stormwater detention and design drive.
Correct.
So I was looking here at the individual costs. So detention, that's around like what, 1.1 million between sites 1 and 3, correct?
Yep, and I'm going to add in there, and a little piece of it, if we're doing really round numbers right now, 150,000 or something of that is what we should do to detain, because we increased pavement on project area 3, and that other round numbers, $950,000 is all for public benefit.
I see, gotcha. And then for design drive, $276,000 approximately.
Yep, that's right.
And that's including sidewalks and then street surfacing.
And the lighting and the landscaping, yes.
Gotcha, okay. And north and south, I think everybody in this room knows I'm pro sidewalk, on the record. But when it comes to segments north and south of the site, there are no continuous sidewalks, correct? Or no contiguous?
Professional staff's going to be able to confirm, but I do not believe it goes south and then north hits Burlington. So, right, I think you're correct.
Okay. Just wanted to confirm that. And then I also had a question on job creation. So estimated between 30 to 35 new jobs created, correct?
I made
within the
Dan be
first 2 years.
conservative. He's even more bullish, but yes, that's what I said, because we're gung ho on that for sure.
Okay, perfect. And what is that kind of basis? Like, what was the basis for that calculation?
Yeah, Dan actually, you can imagine it was methodical. I didn't write it all down for tonight, but it touched all 3 pieces of the campus.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. I appreciate it.
I had a question about the visitors coming to shop. Obviously, there's a big web presence for the dealership also, but how many individual visitors come per day or per week? Do you have that statistic?
Yeah, that's funny. I'll even look back. I'll say in the mic. I know you guys heard it, but if you average it throughout the year per day, would be about 100 people per day.
And do you
Not
expect?
employees, just the
Just
visitors.
visitors. And would you expect, like, do you have an estimate on how much that would increase with these improvements?
Yeah, we did. It's not necessarily immediate, but in the long term, do you have a percent? Again, you're guesstimating. Yeah, over the long term, 30 to 50%.
Great, thank you.
Any further questions?
I'd be curious to hear from Public Works and what benefit this would have to them. Like, would it save significant money? Would it make any changes to the stormwater plan?
What I'll say, what is nice is, they are working with Olson, which is who did our stormwater master plan. When we get into evaluating the actual, stormwater calculations, we'll have to kind of work out who's doing what for what entity at that point. But I haven't seen numbers yet, I don't think. I don't think we have any kind of understanding of the quantity. Those things are all quantifiable, just I don't think there's been math put to that we've seen yet, so.
I think that's my hesitation is I'm trying to balance, okay, sure, it's beautiful, it's going to look great, but what is the public benefit of this? Especially like that part of the road, it looks great, but it's not a significantly used space. The sidewalks are kind of cut off. So I'm not necessarily opposed to taking the next step, but I also don't want to waste your time and money either. So I just want to be really cognizant of what the public benefit is here.
Sure. Mayor, if it's appropriate.
Absolutely.
Just on the stormwater front, design drive is that's subjective, right? You just decide whether that's valuable or not. But on the stormwater front, I will say I've known David Eichmann and Olson for a really long time, and I believe you talk all the time, but even on this, kind of we're kicking around ideas in the last week or so, and I made absolutely sure, for example, I said, he even you have to do a whole stormwater study, you know that, and they haven't done the complete study, but since David knows this area like the back of his hand, I said, so this is significant, and I won't even say percentages right now, but you'll like it in terms of what it's doing, just because I don't want to get ahead of the study. But I said, I sat back here, he'll smile, I said, significant, right? Like the percentage, he's like, absolutely, I'm positive. It's taking care of, a significant part of the stormwater. So that's our burden to show to you, but I understand the question and the point.
And that would be borne out more in a feasibility type of study. And when we did the Bloom NKC incentive request, we looked at similarly positioned. They're just across the road here, and that is at the base of the North Oak Hill. So it's coming off the levee, it's coming off the hillside. There's a lot of water running down into North Kansas City at this point. So detention is very important, and I appreciate staff bringing that up as we started getting into this.
And to be real, so I didn't raise expectations. It's like oversell. I'm never overselling. This is coming from David, right? Me asking him. There's a big issue, right? There's a big goal in terms of dealing with stormwater. This deals with a lot of water that has nothing to do with our site. But just know, it's not like it takes care of 50% of the whole area's water, just for expectation, but it's significant.
Further question, Councilmember Wells.
Yeah, you mentioned job creation on the benefits portion, and I'm wondering if you have the numbers for what the current staffing is and what you would anticipate you would level up to, and if this went through.
Yeah, the current, I'm going to cheat again and look at the exact number because we just checked to get it fresh. The estimate over the next 2 years in growth was that 30 to 35 that I said is conservative because I made it be conservative. But the existing today was, as we go to the benefits page, I think I actually have it on the slide too so I can say it and see it. No, I didn't give that to you. It's 112 today. So retaining 112, 30 to 35 over the next 2 years.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
All right. So we are at the point where if this is something that we would like to consider, we would open a funding request or approve a funding request for them to compensate our financial advisors so that there is no out-of-pocket.
To make it clear, it's going to be more than our financial advisor. It's any outside expert that we need to hire. For example, if we need to get an engineer to verify something,
Yep.
or outside legal counsel, those things are also included. I
Right.
didn't want there to be a misunderstanding.
I need to write that down. You caught me on the same thing last week. So paying for all of it. And to me, I think it's compelling enough to make that decision, to have them tell us, is this a good deal for the city? What is the financial return? What does it look like? Based on these numbers, which are estimates by the proposal, by the developer's proposal, which to be taken with a grain of salt, but our advisor would get down into the nitty-gritty. So any thoughts on that from the city council? Am I seeing head nods or head shakes? Thumbs ups? Thumbs ups? Thumbs up. I see head nods. I see some of this. Okay. Do we need to call a roll on this one?
If just a motion, if we could get a motion for us to bring back a funding agreement for consideration at the next meeting.
Who wants to make that motion?
I'll make the motion.
Okay. Do we have a second? All in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Any opposed? Motion passes. We will have a funding agreement set up and see what the numbers look like. Thank you for your presentation. All right, moving on to item 11.
Discussion of request to amend city code to allow iconic signs in manufacturing sign district.
All right, I'll take this one, and then I will hand off to Shu for some clarification if we need to. So this one arose because, all right, hold on. All right, we're going on to 11. So this one came up because if many of you have noticed, we have a new bright blue water tower sitting on our skyline on top of Fabriquilt. It says in big bold letters, Fabriquilt, established 1965. That constitutes a sign per our sign code, and it is out of compliance with the way the code is written due to its size. And I spoke to Shu after hearing from Fabriquilt. They were kind of surprised that this was a violation. And it's true. It was cited by codes. It is an actual violation of the code. And so my thought is how we learn about places that the code may no longer be serving us in the way we hope it would is when something like this comes up, similar to the water tanks that we talked about last time. And so this is more of a holistic look. Do we want to have things like iconic signs that can enhance our skyline? If so, we already have an allowance for iconic signs within the One North redevelopment area, and I believe we have a definition of, do you have that definition handy? I've got it in an email, I believe, of what an iconic sign is exactly. But those are allowed in One North. I'll pull it up. Those are allowed in One North, and this would be to make them allowed more broadly across our other districts, our manufacturing district, and this would not be something that is granted automatically. It's not if you just have something you consider to be an iconic sign, you get the approval. It is still a process that they would need to bring that sign to the codes department and get a permit, get permission to put that on their building. So any questions on that, or is this something that the council is interested in making as a code change? Councilmember Alvarez.
Yeah, I'd like to say that there's some history behind this because we actually, when Connor Fitzgerald was in Ward 3, he and I both got an email from that company asking if we could consider allowing them to keep the water tower that was on top of their building, because it started out that this tower was old, rusty. It was about to fall apart, so it was out of compliance just being even on top of the building. So they were advised that it was going to have to come down and they'd have to do away with it. However, I think after some back and forth questions with the city, they were allowed to go ahead and refurbish, repaint, do whatever they needed to do to go ahead and bring it up to codes in order to put it back up on top of their building. At that time, I believe that they were advised, and I'm not positive, but I believe they acknowledged that they were advised that if they wanted to put it back on top of the building, it could not have any writings or signage or characters or anything painted on top of that tower. And then, I think it was last week or week before, I think there was a news channel that filmed it, and the tower was being placed back up on the building, and it now has writing on it. Now is advertising that company. If the code at the beginning does not allow that writing, and I believe they knew that at the time, I don't feel that we should change the code because they went ahead and did something by painting on the tower and making a sign out of it after they were advised that that was not allowed. So I think perhaps they did that without regard to the code, even though they acknowledged the code was there. So now they're backtracking and wanting us to change the code. So for that reason, I don't think that we should change a code because they didn't comply with the original code that we gave them, even though we had gone back and worked with them to allow them to have the tower back on top of the building. So for my part, I am not in favor of changing the code.
So a couple points of clarification. They did bring the tower down. I believe the cost is a little over $3 million to refurbish, powder coat, and lift it back onto the tower. When they submitted the original plan, it had simply a powder coating. It didn't have any lettering or any of that. And codes did ask, are you planning to put lettering or signage on it? And they said, no, we don't intend to do that. And having met and discussed this with the owner of Fabric Quilt, the intention was to not do that at the time. And then they said, well, at this point we see an opportunity, and I don't know that they were intentionally violating the code. I think they said this is going to be a very expensive project. This is something that is going to enhance the skyline. And then they put the lettering on it. They did not come back and ask. You're correct on that. And then they received the notice of violation after it went up. So they reached out and said, well, what should we do? And there's an appeal process. They can reach back out and ask for, I guess, a variance or something along those lines. But for my part, I think it would be better for us to change the code to allow for these sort of iconic signs in general, not to make an accommodation for them per se. But if you think about the skyline of Kansas City, the Western Auto Building, these are iconic signs that highlight and enhance their skyline. We could have things like that. So when somebody drives across the bridge into North Kansas City and they see the big blue water tower, to me, that's something that's really cool. And they spent $3+ million on this. I don't see the harm in having their name on it. So that's just where I'm at on that one. Further clarification? Councilmember Larson.
I understand that they're out of code, like getting a code violation totally makes sense. And I agree that having a one-time approval for this business owner, I don't necessarily agree with that, but I do love the opportunity of having more iconic signs, beautifying North Kansas City, advertising our local businesses. I'm sure Richard Groves would also support this. But I mean, when you think of like the North Kansas City sign, when you pull onto Armour, like it's beautiful. The Screenland Armour sign, like I think having more marquee advertising available for our businesses, I'm in support of that. Obviously, they still have to go through the codes department and be approved. But I'm pro updating the code for this.
And others have requested similar type of signs in the past, I understand, and they've, because the code doesn't allow it, have been denied. So we could see more signs like this go up potentially if we open up an opportunity. Councilmember Saber.
I find this particularly egregious that they knew it was denied at the beginning, and they knew that. They went ahead with the project anyway, and in a sense, they stuck a finger up to the city and said, we're just going to put our name on it anyway and put it back up there. And now they want us to say, oh, good, thank you. That doesn't sit well.
I would not interpret it that way. I wouldn't interpret anything that goes against the code as an act of aggression toward the city. I think they saw
Knowing, and clearly they knew this, but they went ahead and did it anyway. I see it as a thumbs up or a thumbs to our nose that, we don't care. And that's a bad precedent for us to set for the city.
Okay, zooming out real quick from this, the reason it's in our discussion tonight is because of this. This is what highlighted it. Now zooming away from the business. We can be upset with them for having gone ahead and done a thing that didn't meet the code, but does it make it the city better to have iconic signs? Does opening up the code make this a place that will have more character, more of a sense of place, more distinctive signage than it is now? Think of I think it's Allen Chevrolet. I'm thinking of iconic signs. You mentioned Screenland. Those sorts of iconic signs could be on our city skyline, but they're not now because they're forbidden in the code. This is one of one because they did the thing without the code allowing it.
Thumbing their nose at the city while they did it.
One might say.
I did say.
Further thoughts, Councilmember Alvarez.
I understand what you're saying about zooming out, but I actually want to zoom back in because this is where it started. So if we allow other companies or other businesses, and I'm not saying that they would, but to go ahead and do whatever they decide to do and then go back after they've done it and ask for us to amend the code, I'm not fond of that practice at all. So if this was about, hey, this came up, several businesses want to do signs or iconic signs along I-35, that's a different discussion. But this one originated because a particular or specific business did that, rather than having us come back and look at it before they painted it and got an okay before they put it back up. I just think it was a bad practice, and I'm not in favor of, because it seems to me like we're kind of rewarding them when they did that, and I'm not in favor of that at all.
Were they fined? Was there a fine associated with the code violation? You don't have to share figures.
No, there's no fine as of right now. There's typically a due process for any code violation. You'll start with notifying people. You give them a amount of time for appeal or correct the action. Then they can be in compliance. What we're ultimately looking for is to become in compliance. And I'm not in favor of fining people if there is mechanism for bringing things into compliance.
So I agree. It's not an ideal situation. It almost never is when code comes up for updating. Oftentimes there is something that has triggered that. And if we could get ahead of every potential idea that the code, that we could find a place to amend it. This wouldn't even be in my consciousness to bring to city council had this not happened. However, I think it does highlight our skyline. Like you said, if businesses along I-35 wanted to have more iconic signs, that's not allowed. If they ask, they get a no, and they have apparently asked. This is our opportunity to say, now if they ask, there's at least a process to get it done. Go ahead.
My issue would be they didn't ask. When they painted it, they could have asked before they put it back up, or asked before they painted it. And maybe it would have been a discussion at that time, and maybe amended at that time, but they didn't ask.
Mm-hmm. You're
That's
correct.
my issue.
And that is on them. Yeah. Councilmember Saber.
Then we come back to the word iconic. What does that mean? Does that mean that somebody wants to put up a sign for a Bitcoin ATM?
We'll get to that.
Is that
later.
iconic?
Yeah. I've got an Okay, so this is the email. I didn't have it in front of me. Under the North Kansas City current code, an iconic display sign is a, quote, freestanding or wall sign of greater than 1,000 square feet. The North Kansas City Code of Ordinances established, quote, iconic displays as a distinct sign type intended to enhance the city's visual identity and contribute to placemaking. These signs are generally larger, more expressive, and architecturally integrated than standard signage. They are reviewed on a case-by-case basis through the continual conditional use process. So it's not just you get to do whatever big sign you want, it would go through a conditional use process before going up. Councilmember Click?
That was kind of my question. Looking beyond this particular situation, like what amendments would we make? I guess what would we want that to look like was really my main question. And I don't, because at first when I thought about it, I was like, oh no, well, I don't want like ugly signs everywhere. And I don't think that's what would happen because it's probably very expensive. Mainly, that's probably the reason it's very expensive. So I guess what next step of the discussion, what would those amendments look like? What would the changes look like? Do you have any recommendations based on the requests and the denials that you've seen?
So this is a one single case request based on the size, location, and the type of signage where it is. I have not getting into the research of what a potential code amendment is because it is not a staff brought up code amendment, so to speak. This is coming from a business overall. And if we were to consider that particular component for iconic or special, unique skylines, I would just say the first thing I would always go back to is to go back to under the general guidance of the existing code. What is the purpose to have a sign code? And the signage can be very subjective. You can call it iconic, and I can call it an eyesore. I'm not joking about it. It's just how it is. It's very hard to define what is a sign, what is not a sign. And I don't want to end up in Supreme Court and talking about the First Amendment. So that is the thing. So when we go back to looking at a purpose, our code already defined from A to G. There is a list of items over there why we have the sign code. I would say if we were to explore this option and a potential process for this type of unique signage, at a minimum, we should check with these purposes. I'm not going to read all of them word by word right now, but a portion of them I want to share with you is that right now, we wanted the signs to enhance the visual quality of the community. And again, trying to emphasize the priority of the buildings, the open space and streetscape and landscape. We want to make sure that they ensure safety of pedestrians, motorists. So overly crowded signs at certain locations can harm the safety. We all know that. Or if they're in a site triangle, then it's always an issue. We want to promote economic viability. So this one kind of correlates with various type of signs. Do we want to allow unique signage? So I can see that that could be a potential reason. And then we want to promote economic viability, as we mentioned out there, particularly for certain businesses or for a type of businesses or for businesses in a certain area. And I would just say this is probably why currently in our code, the iconic sign or display is allowed in the One North area and One North area only. Because at that time, I assume the city have a goal that is to redevelop our formerly known Armour Road redevelopment district. Today, One North. And we have a clear goal and a picture of what we think might be a district signage over there that can be have its own uniqueness, promote what the city put a lot of efforts into. Again, that could be explored for other areas and other businesses, but I would definitely take more caution to that, just so understand it's not going wild all over the city. And then the last part of it, I just want to say that definitely we should consider other properties. They could have adverse impact to neighboring properties. If we allow one businesses, what if another business abutting it or close to it, one? What if it becomes a competing work that, oh, you covered my sign, now I'm gonna go higher and bigger and taller. So that I would just say there is a lot of work to really do a research and potentially consider what kind of amendment do we want for what certain degree, area, and what type of signage through what process. And I cannot give you all the answer as of today, because again, this is not a code amendment proposed by me. I have not thought through the process yet. I bear and I appreciate all the understanding you all have. I think this is a great discussion. Happy to answer other questions.
And that's why this is a discussion item. It's not fully fleshed out. We're here to discuss whether it's something we want to ask staff to pursue. Councilmember Bailey. I got Dias bias, it seems, but go ahead,
All right.
Bailey.
So, ignoring Fabric Quilt, I'm open to the city evaluating code changes in regards to iconic signage. Fabric Quilt did a thing. They are running the gamble that they may or may not win on that, and they wouldn't have to suffer the final financial repercussions of that decision. But I'm open to at least considering it, you know, for what we have going. If Fabric Quilt gets lucky, they get lucky. If they don't, they don't. But for me, I'm open to the conversation.
Councilmember Wells.
Yeah, my thinking on this is very similar to Councilmember Bailey's. But also, I'm curious, I've heard a process alluded to here of when, say, 1 North, there is an application for an iconic sign. It's been indicated that there's an approval process, and how does that work right now as it stands? Who makes those decisions?
So currently, the iconic sign that is allowed in 1 North will go through a process that's called conditional use permit. It is essentially an entitlement process, meaning you are not allowed by right. You don't just go straight to permit. You have to go through a public hearing process. In more detail, it goes to Planning Commission, and staff will make a recommendation to the Planning Commission. Planning Commission reviews it and make a recommendation. They can take staff's recommendation, no change, or they can alter the staff's recommendation with extra conditions or revise it, or they can deny it. And so Planning Commission makes the recommendation to City Council. Ultimately, City Council will have the final say on the decision on conditional use permit. The reason for it, I would say, generally comes with the conditions, because these are thinking about 1,000 square foot signage. That is a huge signage over there. They typically will require more frequent maintenance upfront and throughout the years. And a conditional use permit, what it does is it can come with conditions to make sure those maintenance are in place so the sign is not deteriorating, causing any structural issue or appealing issue. So down the road, this is why for most of municipalities, that is actually a very standard practice. A lot of municipalities will call that oversized monument signs or oversizing roofing signs, things like that. And again, I'm not sure iconic sign or display is the best name for it, since this is a very subjective matter. But this process itself is actually a very mature process. Did I answer your question?
Yeah, thank you very much.
Councilmember Alvarez.
Yeah, I have another comment on this subject. The tower that we're talking about in question was not a sign previously. They made it into a sign. This was a tower, from what I understand, served no purpose other than it was iconic on their business, and they wanted to keep it. So they were, I believe they were supposed to have a purpose for this tower. So they have, I'm assuming, put water or something in this tower to make it have a purpose. So they were allowed to put it back up on the building. I feel like there's been several concessions made for them to keep the tower because apparently it meant something to them and it was iconic on their business. But in that process, the give and take and allowances that they were given back and forth, I feel like they knew and blatantly went ahead and wrote or made this into a sign, which it was never really a sign to begin with. It was a tower, a water tower. But they were allowed to refurbish it, repaint it, put it back up, find a use for it. It's there, and then they went ahead and took the extra step, even though they had worked back and forth, to make it a sign without getting the okay before they did it. And I think that's a blatant disregard for the codes that we have and against the city. So, and I don't want to see a precedence where we do that just because I'm going to go ahead and do it and then ask to amend it at another time. I'm not necessarily against iconic signs in general, but this has come up because of this particular situation. And so I'm not for it.
So it is, just for the use piece, it is being used. I understand they put water in it and it washes solar panels. I think it was what the CEO told me. So they can run the water down and use it for that. I guess asked a different way, if this was not against the rule and we saw that tower, do we like that tower? Do we want more of that sort of thing in town? If so, let's explore how to amend the code. If not, we don't amend the code. Yes, sir.
Whether we amend the code or not, they should be required indeed to keep the water tower as it is, but they have to cover the signage.
I understand your frustration with this. That would be a multi-million-dollar endeavor.
Well, that's their problem for violating and giving the finger to the city.
Okay. Go ahead.
I don't know the cost of, they made a mistake, so I think they need to repaint it and cover up the lettering. I'm not saying they can't keep the tower or do whatever, but I think they need to follow the rules, and I think they would need to repaint it. I don't know that that would cost a lot of money if they just painted over the lettering. I don't know.
It would require removing the tower and powder coating it the exact same shade. Otherwise, it's a big block of something else. That would be
Penalties for violations.
All right, we're missing the point here. Do we want to discuss allowing iconic signs in the manufacturing district? Do we want to direct staff to bring back a code amendment? So we need a motion. No, we're not. Do we need a motion for directing staff to bring back an amendment? No. Okay. So it would be helpful.
In this case, yeah,
Okay.
it would be helpful.
Okay. If somebody would like to see a code amendment brought forth that we could also look at, workshop, and deny ultimately or approve, we need a motion for that.
I motion.
I second.
All in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Any opposed?
No.
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 Should we call the roll on that, or? Okay, Tom's nodding. Let's call the roll.
Prepare for that.
Yeah.
Councilmember Saper.
No.
Councilmember Bailey.
Yes.
Councilmember Kane.
No.
Councilmember Alvarez.
No.
Councilmember Wells.
Yes.
Councilmember Larson.
Yes.
Councilmember Click.
High stakes. Yes.
Okay.
Okay, it passes.
Motion passes. Please explore how we can amend the code, and we'll look at this at a future meeting. All right. Item 12.
Max 169 screen rental rates.
Who's got this one? So, I mean, we'll ask questions of you as we get there. We asked staff to bring back an estimated cost to rent the Max 169 screen. This is the big screen that the city and the park split the cost of. It comes out on a trailer. It can be popped up. The general intent is to use for parks programming and for World Cup for the watch party. And I have expressed an interest, and I know a few council members are interested in seeing that screen activated as much as we can, understanding their staff time, staff cost, operating cost, all those things. And the amount of the rental rate proposed is $3,000 for the rental. So if you want to discuss where you got that or what your thoughts are.
Well, sure. So if I could back up for just a moment. So our proposed cost was $4,500 for a nonprofit, other city government, and then $5,000 in general. A couple of reasons for that. Primarily, that is what like Insane Impact would charge for that type of rental. The other part of it is there's just a lot of unknowns for us right now. We've had the screen for 2 weeks. We haven't had time to really take it out and about. We don't really know all the things until we know the things. Just bringing it up and down from the PID, it was like, ooh, okay, this isn't a good street to go on because the trees hang too low and it's like ding, 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 ding. So there's just a lot of things to figure out. So when we take it out to Kearney, Gladstone, things like that, part of it will be, okay, where is it that you want to place the screen, looking at that, what's the best routes, those sorts of things. I too, I think this is a great opportunity for us to utilize this screen as much as we can, whether that's with other cities, local businesses, for the World Cup. What I would like to suggest is that we keep what we have in place, because we already have some agreements in place. But as an offside, you leave it to parks to decide if they want to do a sponsorship, a partnership, a something totally different than what we are doing with the other organizations, where Parks is benefiting from that sponsorship, whether that's a summer, like there's the summer music sponsor or whatever, and we explore that separately, but we keep what we have with the other local Go North cities at this time.
So walk me through, we have agreements with a few entities already at $5,000 per rental.
$4,500.
$4,500 per rental. So what would that look like as a sponsorship? Say, name your local business, wanted to engage with that. How would they approach the Parks Department and ask permission?
Yeah, so they would probably start with me, like detailing like what it is that they want to do, how Parks could fit into that, like does it include banners, because local is a lot different. I mean, when we're going out to Kearney, Gladstone, those kind of things, there's a lot of bigger unknowns. If we're doing something local, I feel more confident, I guess you could say. And so, like, we're looking for sponsorships for our Arts in the Park and our summer music program and so many other things. And so maybe we're also advertised at the business that we're doing a partnership with.
Sure.
This really isn't unlike other things that we do.
Yeah.
It would just be, what is it that, what's your end objective? And this is what we need as an objective.
Right. And I know this has come up because we've had requests from local businesses. Chicken and Pickle in particular has asked, we have these World Cup games that are not claimed on the screen. And I personally would like to see it involved out and about in the community as one, to bring attention that it exists, which is phenomenal, that we're going to be programming it in the parks. So having some sort of advertisement is awesome. But also to have people in the community benefit from being able to watch the game on a giant screen. They can spend their money at the local businesses. They can, and that brings in tax dollars, that sort of thing. I would hope to see it activated, understanding the real logistical concerns that, especially right now, I think it's just John that can run it, which that's a pinch point, especially for him. And so my general hope is to see it activated.
So yes, and that's my hope too. Like, this is a one-time opportunity for us, and it would also help launch, a lot of the park programs that we could do with the screen. Long-term, we don't want to be in the rental business. That is not where we want to be. Some other critical points right now is we're also looking at River Forest. We take that over after June 18th. That's like right in the middle of all this. And now we're taking my prime park supervisor, probably a maintenance, or myself, and rearranging schedules. So at the end of the day, if Parks is doing this, our hope would not that we're just breaking even. We're not looking to break even. I mean, there's got to be an additional benefit to upset the whole apple cart and figure out how we can pile it back on.
Okay. And so in the memo, there was a $3,000 figure. Is that what you had in mind for like local business sponsorship, a number, or is that still just kind of a work in progress?
So it's a little bit of a work in progress because, again, we wouldn't have to travel as far. Is this a multi-day thing? Is this more of a Chicken and Pickle example? Like, if we were to do multi-games with them, like, is there other opportunity that we're not taking it back and forth? Is there additional security that they're providing? Is there, so somebody doesn't have to be with it the entire time because they're providing additional security for that space that we're comfortable with.
So it is the park's asset. It's a rental. You're in the rental game anyway. You rent out structures and all manner of things.
Right.
It makes sense to trust you and your department to handle that with the goal of having it activated, but sensibly. Thoughts from Councilmember Larson?
So you said you don't want to be in the rental business. So are you proposing, like, we get the Max screen out there this summer, and then after the summer, just keep it as a parks asset?
Unless it makes sense to do something down the road. right now it's hard to say that. Like activating it right now is just kind of at a critical time with bringing on River Forest Park and the World Cup and stuff. So if it made sense to do like another sponsorship partnership with somebody else next summer, maybe we would. Maybe Screenland would want to do, you know, something with the backyard movies or something like that. But as an ongoing, I don't want to set a price and people are like, hey, I want to get your screen. Hey, I want to borrow your screen. Hey.
Yep.
So.
Makes sense. Councilmember Saber.
I'm a little confused. Are you saying that you've got rentals now at $4,500?
Correct.
And you're saying that when you call it a base rental fee, that would give you flexibility in?
Are we talking about the $4,500?
No, not the
Oh.
45, but you're, okay, recommends a base rental fee of $3,000.
This is what I would, like, when I was asked to put some hard costs to it. This is kind of.
Because that seems like.
So if we did an average of, like, say, an 8-hour rental.
Yeah.
Okay. So my base cost, just covering salaries, would be just over $1,500.
Uh-huh.
So again, not looking to rent this just to break even. So then, I guess pain and suffering was another $1,500.
Yeah, I'm having trouble seeing why you'd come up with a base rental fee of $3,000 instead of staying at 45.
Well, I'd like to stay at 45, and that's what I'm actually proposing.
Yeah. Oh, okay. That didn't come
Yes.
across to me. That's my confusion.
Councilmember Bailey.
Okay, so I'm just going to read from the memo, and we're going to correct, I think. Parks and Rec recommends a base rental fee of $3,000. You're saying that should be Parks and Rec recommends $4,500. That?
Yes, I think some of the confusion came in because if we were just going to do a straight rental across the board and any local business could also rent it, like what would that look like? And 5,000 seemed to be too steep.
Too steep?
That is what I've heard from all interested businesses who would like to do something, program the screen. It's my understanding that if the rate is $4,500, which is, it's your right to propose, it'll sit in a storage unit and not get activated. That if the real costs aren't being covered, then it's kind of a waste to run it out. But there are other benefits as well. So that's why I'm saying we'll trust Victoria and her team to decide on a request by request basis on how they're going to administer the screen.
So if we could keep what we have planned for the Go North, and then we would enter into sponsorship partnerships, joint events.
That could then potentially reduce it from 4,500 to something less.
Right.
Okay, that kind of flexibility. You want the flexibility to do
right.
this. Okay.
The contact point for opportunities is Victoria and the Parks Department, and then it'll go from there. You lead the discussions. You decide yes or no. Yes. Is that acceptable to the council? I see a lot of head nods. Okay.
All right.
We'll point everybody your direction.
Thank
Have
you.
fun with it. Thank you. All right, item 13.
Consideration of a resolution establishing a flag policy for city facilities, resolution number 26-010.
All right, so I brought this one forward. There's a few points to make. As one, we don't have a flag policy. We haven't had a flag policy at the city, and I think it is important that we do. So this is an attempt to establish a policy governing our flags that fly at city facilities, at City Hall, Fire Department, and any other city flags that are up on poles. Right now, the most poles we have at any city facility is 3, and we have 3 flags that are currently flying that represent 100% of the people that live in North Kansas City by default. They're the city flag, the state flag, and the United States flag. Any other flag that would go up on those poles represents, by definition, fewer than 100% of the population. Approving one-off flags can leave us exposed. I spoke to our city councilor about this. There was a Supreme Court case where Boston had flown other flags and then said no to a flag request and got themselves in some hot water. Went all the way to the Supreme Court, and they were ruled against. And what's that? Yes, they were ruled against. Yes, and so not having a policy to govern how we're going to receive requests and how we're going to handle our flagpoles can leave us exposed. And we can find other ways than flying flags to celebrate, to honor, to support other causes. We have proclamations, we have events, we can do things like that, and we can leave our flagpoles for the 3 flags that represent 100% of the people. So I'm open to questions or thoughts on what's on the page. Councilmember Saber.
Have there been requests for other signs
We've had
in recent years?
For other flags to go at the pole. We
Yeah.
had the pride flag go at the pole. Historically, we've flown, I believe, the prisoner of war, the POW MIA flag. I'm not certain if we've gotten, I don't know if they've come through as formal requests, but requests for, like churches have had requests that, hey, you know, this flag we have, there are flags for different religions. But we also proclaim various, you know, different months. We could fly flags for those, but we don't.
Yeah.
And what I really want to avoid is if we do get that request, what do we do with it? If we get a request for something that we haven't flown before and that the city doesn't really want to engage with that, could we wind up just like Boston?
We could.
Councilmember Alvarez.
Yeah, I think we should stick to the 3 flags, the city, state, and the United States, because we could, like you said, have requests for several different, I guess, groups or whatever, however you want to identify it. I think anything else that we want to include, we can, you know, like on private property or other creative ways to show our support for different groups. But I think that we are exposing ourselves to all kinds of different requests, and how do you say no to one and not the other? So I would think that for the city government buildings, I think we should keep it to the three flags that we have.
Further thoughts? Okay, we have Councilmember Bailey.
As we were researching this, is there, you know, clearly maybe not having a policy is not the best option. There's the proposed policy. Is there any other intermediary third steps that are commonly used?
There's Supreme Court precedent. You dug into this, I believe, in the city of San Jose that allows for ceremonial flags related to other countries, sister city sports teams, things like that, that would be allowable per the Supreme Court ruling. But we also open ourselves up on a one-off basis if we're making exceptions. It's when you drop the first no that things get real dicey.
I can appreciate the legal concern. I don't know if we should always make all decisions in fear of legal consequences. Doesn't mean we shouldn't do this one. I'd be interested in knowing if there is some other category that we could consider, such as nationally recognized flags or something like that, where we could still prevent flags that are, you know, are clearly not in anybody's sense good choices, but still leave ourselves open to some character or flavor.
It's tricky when you say in anyone's sense a good choice, because that's open very much to legal interpretation, and that's where you land in some tricky spots. Councilmember Kane.
I would agree with Councilmember Bailey. I would at least, if anything, for my own information, just to kind of understand what those intermediary steps could be, if other cities have tried to sort of walk that line. Yeah, I think there's a lot that's uniquely North Kansas City and inviting, and there's a space of inclusion. And I would at least like to see, you know, what kinds of avenues that cities have taken to just kind of get that understanding, and to understand too the legal challenges that come from those directions. So,
Councilmember Wells.
In my reading about the Supreme Court case, I learned that, you know, it's sort of an all or nothing sort of thing. So you have to, if you say yes to one group, you have to be willing to say yes to everyone in your community, and that can be any group that, you know, anyone in here might not agree with or want to see up on the city's flagpole. And I believe that Boston has actually been challenged again, where they've come back and continued to allow other groups to put flags up and then said no to another organization, and I believe that they are back in federal court again. So there are, I don't think it's likely to happen in Northtown, but the chances are certainly not zero that someone could come along and in a reactionary sense say, ha ha ha, here's the flag I want to have up on the flagpole, and we have to do it.
Right.
I'm in support of just 3 flags. Keep it simple, and we can devote our energy to more activities, proclamations, allow the citizens to have more involvement rather than just a flag on a pole. That leaves us open to potential lawsuits.
Councilmember Click.
I would agree with Councilmember Larson, just for the simplicity, not because there are other flags that I wouldn't necessarily emphatically support, but there are other ways, I think, to support and make people feel supported and loved and welcome in our community that might even be more powerful than a flag. Maybe not. I don't want to speak for anyone else, but yeah, I think just keeping it straightforward, not making it too complicated, not putting future councils in potentially questionable positions, just to be forward thinking. I think keep it simple.
All right. I think everybody's spoken on that one. Do we have a motion on a resolution?
I motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Any opposed?
Nay.
Motion passes. Right. Moving on to item 14.
Short-term conditional use permit for World Cup Park and Ride Facility.
Shu, did you want me to take this?
Please.
Okay. Hi, everyone. I'm actually going to talk through 14, 15, and 16, if that's okay with everybody. In your packet, you had kind of a global map, and I'm going to be referring to this because, again, all of these short-term conditional use permits, really, we look at them as the whole. So I'm going to kind of refer to them. I'm going to step through them, 14, 15, and 16. I'm going to talk about the short-term conditional use for the park and ride for KC 2026. This right here, this park and ride is going to be activated for the 33 days that the games will be active here in Kansas City. There are actually 2 different operations on this particular site. There is the game day or match day is what we're learning to call this. So for those 6 days, it will operate very different than it does the rest of the time. So bear with me as I kind of try to explain this a little bit. So inside the packet, for match days, it will also involve a road closure, and a lot of that has to do with pedestrian safety in this area. We've kind of talked through this a little bit when we talked about the sidewalks in this area. It will be fully staffed. There will be pedestrian crossing people, so it will be fully staffed during those match days. They will be checking IDs and not really IDs. They'll be checking for parking permits. That will be when it is operating as a stadium direct. It will be $15 per rider. It will be open 3 hours before the match and 2 hours after the match is kind of what we are learning about how this will operate. The rest of the time it will operate is what's called a regional direct, and that will be $5 pass per rider, and that will be kind of like a bus service, and they will have buses every 20 minutes, picking up and dropping off from that particular location. Sunday through Thursday, it will operate from 10 a.m. to midnight, and from Friday to Saturday from 10 a.m. to 1 a.m. So again, on match days, both of those operations happen at the same time. So that will be a very active location on match days. That will operate from June 6th to July 12th. It's kind of when that particular operation will happen. It is actually a license agreement with the private owner, What they are kind of coming to the city is to talk about that, really specifically that road closure and bus stops.
Where did you say which road specifically segment would be closed?
It is between Fayette and Howell on 18th Avenue.
So that entire segment between Fayette to Howell?
It's not the entire, but it's a good chunk of it.
Okay. Do we have that on any of the maps? 'Cause I'm trying to look at the populous draft here. I didn't see that closure.
On their application. Ooh, hang on, I've got my attachments out of order. It looks like this. It says draft on it.
Yeah, I couldn't tell where exactly the closure happens.
It is in between, are you looking at it? It's in between 4 and there's a little pedestrian route.
There's very, very fine little
It
orange
is very
lines.
Those little
fine.
orange lines.
It is very fine.
Okay, perfect. Interesting. So we made sidewalks along there recently, and now they're closing the road?
They are closing the road, but please also remember, it operates 33 days with 20-minute buses, and the hope would be that those patrons during that time walk down 18th Avenue to our downtown destinations.
Sure.
So even though the sidewalks are not there for those 6 match days, you still will be using those sidewalks to gain access to where the bus route, I don't know if you can see on that particular one, there is like a bus corral.
Yep. Over on the right side there. Yeah, to be clear, the sidewalks are net good, but it was just now that I'm seeing the road being closed after building sidewalks on both sides, or some sidewalks on both sides.
A lot of that, the road closure had a lot to do with the moment in time pedestrian surge and staff's and PD's concerns about being able to manage that pedestrian flow.
Yeah, it makes a ton of sense. Okay.
So that's kind of number 14. I hope you don't mind, I'm going to kind of walk through them. So number 15 and JD Green.
Do you want us to pause and like motion on 14 to be done with
How
that
would
one?
you like that done, Crystal? Do it as one? Okay,
So
it sounds like
one
you
to
can do-
approve all 3?
Correct.
Whoa. All right. I like it.
The second one. So we're going to pivot now to the yellow area of this kind of comprehensive map. JD Green with Northland Festivals is here, and this is the conditional use permit or short-term conditional use permit for the actual watch party. This is where the screen that we have talked about before will be activated. And that road closure, we have that closing on Friday at 7 p.m. It will be closed all Saturday. It will be activated. There is another map in your packet that kind of shows, at least right now, what our working layout is. It's the one that looks like this. So on the south part of Swift, we'll have an area for inflatables. There is food vendors, first aid, a futsal tournament, and picnic viewing area. And then you can see where the screen is as well. Behind that screen, we'll have some storage and more utilitarian use. And that is what, again, if you have any more operational questions, JD Green is much more versed at this than I am. But what is before you today is that short-term conditional use permit, which is item number 15.
Do we have any specifics yet on Town Square? Like what's planned for that weird little appendage?
From what I do know that NKC Health has been working with the fire department, and I do believe that that is where their preferred location is. A lot of that has to do with it's one of the only areas that has shade in this particular area. They are anticipating, because it is going to be July 11th, might be a little warm, that a lot of the people that might need their services might need to get out of the sun for a little bit and then be experiencing some heat.
That's smart. Okay, and then there's a render in one of these, might be the next one down, that has the beer gardens label kind of on the north side of this futsal turn. It looks like
Correct.
it kind of bends around the corner at Swift. Is that more what the vision is? Or?
That is number 16, so that is actually for the Parks and Recreation. They are looking for a short-term conditional use permit, and that is kind of a beer garden. It's actually going to be in those parking spaces. So kind of throwback to when we were doing parklets. It's kind of that theory. I will mention that we are also in conversations that there is kind of a desire to possibly do another beer garden. And that would be in between Swift and Erie, so to kind of carve off that particular block. There's a lot that we're working through with the applicant on that. Wasn't able to get that particular request on this agenda. That applicant has secured their insurance quote, which I'll be honest is the biggest lift of this particular request. There is some conversations that are being scheduled over the next week, so we may actually come back and ask for an amendment to what you are considering tonight. We are in a little bit of a chicken and egg. I do know that J.D. Green needs this license as part of his insurance requirements to show that he has gotten kind of the thumbs up from the city to actually host this particular event. So again, should that applicant who is looking at potentially doing kind of a beer garden / event, kind of adjacent to ours, which would be again in between Swift and Erie on Armour, be successful, talk to all those interested businesses, kind of get together a plan that would be coming to you at your next council meeting.
Last question is, I assume we've had input from public safety on entry points into this festival area. Now that our chief officer of public safety is having a side conversation, I would bring that up. I didn't notice until I turned my head. Points of entry to the festival area, any logistical concerns from the police department?
Yes, always. Yeah, we're very concerned about the public safety aspect of it, and I don't want to be a sky's falling type of person ever, but we would, as much as possible, like to control entrance and exit out of this particular event. We know it's highly unlikely based on the city's capabilities and current infrastructure. So we'll do the best we can with what we got. Yeah. But in the best case scenario, we would be controlling entrance and exit, checking bags, making sure clear bag policies, no pyrotechnics, no fireworks, all that kind of stuff. Can we pull that off? Likely not. Yeah. But it's definitely a concern.
Being present and visible is helpful.
Correct.
I know that the northern end, at least, was workshopped a lot to make sure we didn't have like 8 or 9 more just by extending it by an intersection. So appreciate that. Yeah, best efforts. Appreciate it. Any other thoughts, questions from the group? Otherwise, we'll take, oh, go ahead.
Just a quick question. Are the park and ride area, are they going to be monitoring that like 24 hours? Or, I mean, I know that's a hard ask, but is someone going to try to monitor that area, or going to have cameras in the area kind of thing?
One of the things that we were working on with the applicant, which again is KC 2026, is those cameras, and for dispatch to have access to them.
There's a lot of money splashing around for cameras, if I understand correctly. So hopefully we can grab some of that on this one of just a few direct park and rides to Arrowhead. All right. Any other thoughts or questions? If not, we'll need a motion on the 3 proposed conditional use permits.
Move to approve.
I'd like to add one little thing here. Sorry, I'm on the wrong side. I just want to make sure you all see the recommendation over there is to approve with a condition that the applicant continuously work the details out with staff. So this way you will give the staff authority for minor amendments. And there are a lot of details that hasn't been hashed out yet. Just want to add that.
So it would be a proper motion to approve with staff conditions?
For the park and ride only.
Okay. We got that, Crystal?
I'm put it down, yep.
Was that your motion, Councilmember Kane?
Yes, move to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Any opposed? Motions pass. Right. Moving all the way down to item 17.
2026 KC Showdown Car Show, short-term conditional use permit.
I have no comments as stated in the staff report. If you have questions, I'll be happy to answer it.
Questions or a motion?
I move to approve.
Second?
All in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Any opposed? Motion passes. All right, moving to item 18.
Safe Streets for All Implementation Grant and Demonstration.
All right, before I kick it to Shu, I just want to make sure that we're clear that what we are looking at doing is discussing a grant. Are we interested in applying for a grant for this, not necessarily workshopping all the different details of this particular proposal? Go ahead.
Precisely. What we are asking for direction from the council is whether we're interested in pursuing an demonstration grant. It is a very specific type of grant that's provided by the NOFO, the Notification of Funding Opportunities, released by the Federal Highway Administration. So in this year's funding cycle, it is a 5-year funding cycle, and this is the last year for this particular project that was passed by Congress. Over here, there are 3 different type of applications the city could consider. One is a supplemental planning. We have applied for a planning grant a few years ago, and we were awarded with $240,000 at that time, come with a local contribution of $60,000 to do a comprehensive safety action plan. That's what you all heard, the Safe Streets for All. We are at the very final stage of this plan right now, so now we're eligible to apply for funding for demonstration or implementation. We don't believe there is a need for supplemental planning funding that we needed at this point, but I want to distinguish the demonstration and implementation grants and why we are looking into demonstration at this point. Essentially, the big difference is the dollar threshold. For implementation dollars, they're usually much bigger projects. They have a minimum threshold, I believe, starting with $3 to $5 million and go all the way up. And then for demonstration, they're tailored to much smaller projects and temporary explorations, so to speak. They are generally going from $100,000 to $3 million. That's what we can say for sure. And then for demonstration also, there are requirements that no permanent asphalt can be involved, such as sidewalk, ADA ramps, a shared use path, curbs, and all of those cannot be demonstration. The purpose for demonstration to be distinguished from implementation is that this is an exploration of a temporary solution for changing of the traffic pattern. Basically, test the water, see if the idea work or not. So moving forward, the city has been in discussion with our consulting firm, Wilson Company, who was the one did our comprehensive safety action plan. And there were a few projects that was recommended by them. One of them is the pedestrian plaza that is located on Howe, right next to the high school. And the city has been meeting with the high school a few months ago and has been in a continuous conversation. There were some concerns, definitely pros, cons. We all heard from different parties. And our police department was also involved in this particular conversation. So that is a big component that we're considering, and as part of the package that you saw today. What we're looking into is looking at potentially applying for a grant that can pay for a few dozens. I counted, and I could have counted wrong because it's not quite up to scale, so I was counting the dots, how many are there. Each of the dot means a removable stainless bollard, and we particularly want a stainless steel bollard instead of delineators for safety reasons, and of course there's aesthetic purpose for that as well. But imagine the bollard will be able to be removed during the functionality of the school's loading and offloading. So this way we allow the school buses continuous operating over there, while during other regular hours, it will be closed for that portion of Howe to allow pedestrians and to enjoy that area, becoming a pedestrian plaza. the school district is interested in exploring opportunities for potential community events and utilizing that space. So we think that will be a great pioneer experience to see how that goes. And that one is where we actually started looking, and then we extended it and looking at the rest of how. We were wondering how people are gonna get to the pedestrian plaza since the house shared use path is not quite in place yet. What we do for the rest of the community. And we hear a lot of concerns along 32nd Avenue and along how, especially during our final steering committee meeting, which was also a public open house. I remember this room was like almost packed with residents with a lot of concerns, which was great. It's good to hear that people has concerns and come out and talk about it. But in responding to that, we actually did prioritize 32nd Avenue into our final plan. So you can find that in the final draft over there. There are quite a few things that's being recommended over there. Part of that is the speed table, such as speed humps, and then the RRFBs. Those are the beacon, flashing beacon lights that you saw on Armour Road, that they have the yellow rectangle. There is a full name for it. Don't quote me on this. I might not be able to explain what is RRFB. They're rectangle.
Rapid rectangular flashing beacons.
Okay, all right. Gosh, you guys can take my job.
It's a tongue twister.
Anyway, long story short, those beacon flashing lights, they're not cheap. And along with those, maybe delineators and markings that can help redefine some of the bump outs for crosswalks. So the point for that is, imagine going from Swift along 32nd Avenue all the way to Howe, and then turning south along Howe Street, going from 32nd Avenue to Armour. All the existing crosswalks, we're looking into potentially improving them by adding temporary speed humps, adding the beacon flashing lights, and redefining bump out areas for all of them to increase the pedestrian safety. So that's where we thought, okay, then we can package this together as one application. We believe we can make a strong case out of the demonstration grant. Anyway, I explained a little bit more than I probably needed to, but if you have any questions, I would be happy to take. I will not defer that to Kim this time.
No, thank you for that. And it's like taking a test drive on what we're proposing. And one of the big lessons learned out of the Armour Road streetscape was people were, at least they said they were shocked at what was built, because it's hard to look at a rendering or a picture of top down and see what it's going to feel like. And anything we can do to allow people to feel it before it becomes the built environment, and then it's much harder to reverse, I'm all for that. And I like what you proposed, the speed humps along Howell, the bump outs, getting a way to sort of conceptualize the pedestrian plaza, 32nd. These are all things that have been high priority items. Is there a way to do augmented reality for this? Like where you could have it put on a headset and see what it could look like?
I would think that component, if we're looking for grants, that would probably be under the supplemental planning grants.
Really?
Okay. They're not necessarily under the category or umbrella of demonstration, so to speak.
I'm wondering if we can shoehorn it in, because it would be a way to demonstrate what it would be like. However,
right.
Supplemental plan, either way, that makes sense. But getting people the ability to test it out in a meaningful way, big fan. Thoughts, Councilmember Kane?
Yes, so thank you, Shu. I appreciate it and all the background. Could you talk a little bit about the components of like a typical demonstration project? Like what does it look like when a resident goes out on the streetscape and there is a demonstration project that's ongoing?
Absolutely. Remember those times when Armour Road has all the delineators, and every morning when I stood by Mike's office and I watched the cars zoom by, and I would say 1 out of 10 will just run over the delineator, and I'll be like, oh my gosh. And so those are demonstration components.
Really selling it here.
They are temporary, but also on the other side, visualizing the changes and redirect the traffic pattern is the goal for them. However, they're not built to the engineering standard to be a permanent improvement or changes. That's, and I believe a lot of you all probably have the experience with the Midtown in Kansas City. They did a lot of road diet recently, and most of the road diets they did, or at the beginning of it, they redefined bike lanes. I'm not sure, I won't dive into the question whether or not we should choke the road and take a lane off. I know people have very complex feelings about it. But imagine all the delineators that they use to define bike lanes over there. Maybe some of them they use to close, and even the type 3 barricades that they use to close some of the slip lines. They have a lot of those as well. And also those composite, like usually black and yellowish looking, plastic looking speed humps, not the best ones, but they are there to kind of show a particular demonstration, and as well as you can also put the speed readers at places. Those are the more of a fitting to the demonstration tunnel.
And that actually got to my next piece too. So like ongoing data collection and, what kinds of things would the city be doing during that time to kind of get an understanding of changes to traffic patterns and anything ongoing there?
I'm looking at Chief Freeman because he does such a good job for that. I know he had quite a few studies gathering the data, and I'm sure he'll be happy to share all that.
I don't know if that was a question. Yes, we have capabilities within our equipment now to set up and run some very limited traffic studies over roadways. They're not 100% accurate by any means, but they are a good feel for what's going on a particular roadway at a given time.
Okay. And these are just in line with the recent traffic study for 32nd Avenue?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, so we have the covert radar recorder, which is what we talked about a lot recently. We also have the overt ones, the signs that flash your speed. Those are also recording data all the time, too.
And those are generally eligible for demonstration grants as well, if the city decided to include those, and I can have a conversation with, where I can actually meet Chief Freeman and to see if there is any need for such equipment, and we can probably even add it into this package. But keep in mind, there is a 20% share from the local wise, so if you're going $1 million, you'll have to come up with 200,000, and so.
It's always appetizing to buy it at 80% discount, though, so never mad about that.
Yep.
Do you have further question on that one?
Yeah, and just one additional question. So, so this is low-cost, temporary infrastructure. I'm assuming easier to put in place, to install, to remove. So, when there's a lot of alternatives being weighed for 32nd and for Howell, does that also open up the possibility for then to, within a study period, to be able to, alter or in any way, look at multiple options for a given street?
Absolutely. That is really a spirit for a demonstration, that you're trying to test the water, see what works, what doesn't. And I assume one of the things you find out is there are some mechanism that doesn't work, and we can make an adjustment to it. I feel like as far as we make the case that we need X amount of speed humps, so we need this much money for purchasing that, and we really do that, and we can alternate the layouts and trying to figure out what works, what does not work.
Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Mm-hmm.
Councilmember Wells.
Yeah, I apologize if I missed this somewhere along the lines, but do we know what the study period would be if this went through? Like how the duration?
I'm not quite sure which study you're talking about.
The demonstration
Oh,
period.
the demonstration?
Yeah, sorry.
Okay. The grant, the application is due May the 26th. So we are actually trying to gear up and put an application together here in a couple of weeks. I am waiting for a response from the school district. So we're trying to get them support us at this point. And of course, another thing I'm asking the council is we can contingent the application based on the school district's feedback. or we can move forward, apply for it, and if the school district is not on board, worst case scenario, we'll send the money back for that portion of it.
So if, say we get the money awarded, when would we implement it and how long would it run?
Yeah.
Would it be like a 6-month thing? Would it be a?
Oh, got it.
That's the
So
question.
the demonstration project, as far as we're awarded with those, the items that we purchase with them, they'll just become ours.
Okay.
And so we can run them as long as we need it. But again, these mechanisms are aimed for temporary solutions. They're not built to last. Otherwise, there will not be implementation dollars over there. But there is discussion that this particular program can be renewed, and so maybe the city will be able to looking into some implementation grant in the future.
In your experience, what's a typical demonstration period to change traffic habits?
It could be as short as 1 day if you get a lot of complaints and you cannot stand for it.
That's about how
but
long
I would
Armor
not
got.
suggest, because I would say at least give it a full week, running from all the weekdays and the weekends to get a full understanding of what the issues are. And then typically we see a lot of demonstration can go from like a 3 months to 6 months and even a year.
Yeah. I'll call on you in just a second. As we're exploring alternatives, one of the biggest question marks is the actual placement of the bike infrastructure. Are we able to add that as a thing we could test using delineators or whatever we would need to mark off a space that's on the road and protected so that we could try to run the bikes along the west side of Howell, maybe on the east side, maybe around the plaza, maybe on the, you see what I'm saying?
I know what you're talking about. We have, maybe this is for benefits for people who's watching this meeting. We have been talking about modifying the original house shared use path going from Clark Ferguson all the way down to Armour to move that shared use path to the west side of Howe. However, they're no longer a shared use path in that portion. They're more of a traditional bike lane. So there will be markings and a dedicated minimum 8-foot wide biking infrastructure over there. Again, that was part of the plan, and as you can see, it was included in the pedestrian plaza package over there. If you're looking at the north end of the tip of the plaza, the top of the triangle, I believe we can do some markings and delineators over there. That is no problem. However, I'm not sure if the grant can cover the reconfiguration of the yellow lines in the middle for House Street. But I would assume that is probably a low-cost change for reconfigure the road itself.
Because a lot of the discussion's been around the theory of what could happen if we put the bike lane there, like what does parking look like, what does traffic flow look like, and if we can demonstrate it, test it, and see if it's as good or as bad as people dream it might be. Oftentimes it's somewhere in the middle. I think that'd be extremely useful way to look at this. Councilmember Saper.
Question about some of the permanents. How do you do temporary speed bumps?
Oh, they're the composite ones instead of the
okay.
asphalt ones.
They're not the asphalt.
Yeah, they're not the asphalt ones. They're the composite ones. They're more like a plastic-looking ones.
Think about the one Spire has been using,
Yeah,
the bridge
that's-
over,
that's what I'm envisioning.
that sort of thing.
A lot of
like
them
that.
are used more for driveways or inside of a parking lot. However, there is more robust ones that you can purchase. They're more expensive, of course, and wider. They have a little bit more space on the top of the flat area for roadways.
My only concern is that these things really be removable and testable. Otherwise, we can open up many cans of worms.
Yep. And we will need to be extremely clear on our communication as this rolls forward that, like, this isn't the thing we're building, because people will see it and think, oh my gosh, what are they thinking? That this is a test. George hears it. This is a test. We're finding out what works, what doesn't. Further thoughts from the council? So are we interested, is that what we're looking for, guidance on, do we apply for the grant?
Yes.
Okay, 20% local match, 80% funded on the grant. I think I'm seeing thumbs up. All right, universally thumbs up. Well done.
Appreciate. Thank you.
Right. What's that? Absolutely not. We'll talk to you afterwards. All right. Item 19.
Consideration of an ordinance requiring regulation of virtual currency kiosks within the city limits of North Kansas City. Bill number 7981, ordinance number 9778.
This is Mr. Barzee.
The memo, as you'll notice, is relatively lengthy. I'm sure each of you have already read that, so I'm not going to go over unless you have a specific question. I would point out to you, this was being brought back to you, though, at the request of the council, Mayor. As you look at the ordinance itself and the language that will be in the code, first of all, we are preempted by state law from doing a number of things, so there's some things we just can't do. But based upon research that I did, one of the primary, the FBI determined that nationally one of the big problems is people that are getting older, maybe over 60 years of age, they're taken advantage of, as well as those of some, their words were, I think, some mental incapacity in some way that were using these, and they were, defrauded, if you will. And so the way this is structured is it requires an annual registration, okay, and the whopping fee of $1, okay, but it must be done annually. The date coincides, in talking with Nick, to when the last day or whatever of our business licenses are due. There are restrictions, as I said, and so some things, like there won't be a business license, but there's a host entity, and those host entities should all have business licenses, all right? The other thing is it restricts on where they can be located. They have to be in a visible place. They can't be located within 500 feet of the vulnerable adult facilities that are specifically defined what that is. And then they have to have warning signs up with a description below the warning signs and giving them even a phone number of the police department as well as the Attorney General's office if they feel like there's been a problem of any form. And then there is also, we have other rights for inspection of records, et cetera. But then the enforcement part is, there's a civil penalty of at least $100 brought to court here if they're found guilty, but not more than what the maximum is that this city can provide per state law, which is $500. Be glad to answer any questions, but I tried to keep it fairly short.
Thank you very much for that. Couple questions. I appreciate that there's the vulnerable adult facility 500 feet or more away. It defines it as one primarily, I mean, it's a whole definition, but any other facility primarily serving persons aged 60 years or older. And I think that's because above it, it mentions the all 142 million of the fraud was for people over 60. But most are 55 plus. So we're going to get into some weird legal argument that most of the people are over 55 and not 60. I mean,
I don't think so.
It seems like a wide open hole that some lawyer is going to try to punch through if it ever gets challenged. I don't know why we wouldn't line it up with 55, or is that just the rule that the state?
No, I don't think that it's a rule. I'm trying to remember now where I came up with the number. I read so many things. Sometimes you get confused. Now, where did I read that? Or I'd give you the exact one if I remember.
I'm sure you would. My preference would be because of the way real estate allows facilities to allow only 55 plus. That's the only like age discrimination you're ever allowed to have. It's 55 plus. So I would just make that number 55 so that there's not this weird.
If that's good with it's fine with me.
Unless there's some weird.
Yeah, it would be. We would just amend this. It would be passed then. If you pass it, it would be passed as amended.
Okay.
And the amendment would be changing that to 65.
55.
55, I'm sorry, 55.
Other question, it may be in here, I don't think I saw, is there specific verbiage that has to go on the warning sign?
Oh, you mean on the warning?
Yes.
Yes.
And is that
See,
somewhere
right,
on
if
here?
you look at, if everyone, it's page 5 of 8. Section
there you go. Yep.
5.50.070.
Fraud warning stop.
And
before
it
you
says the warning, fraud warning, et cetera. And notice what the two paragraphs that are below that
That's right.
also are required. Okay, so that's where you get the phone number for the police department, et cetera.
It's got to be a full page, 8.5 by 11 with 18-point bold
Yes.
sans serif
Just
font.
as it's described, right?
Perfect. Don't put it in Times New Roman. Councilmember Saper.
I think that if it can survive legal challenge, and it sounds like it could, I think it'd be a good step toward keeping it out. That's the purpose of it, obviously. It'd be too onerous for them to do business there.
Well, the idea is to be accommodating to businesses that are doing business in North Kansas City, but not trying to harm our vulnerable population. And thank you for bringing this to the council's attention, and thank you for all the work you've done on it.
Well, yes, but Councilman Kane was very helpful.
Yep, very good. And I mean, the interplay of state and federal and all that. I've learned a lot reading these memos, so thank you. Learning about police powers and preemption and all that good stuff. This would be a pass by ordinance. So how do we do if the council wants to go to 55 rather than 60? Would it be a first reading with an amendment?
Yes.
Okay.
There would be a motion for passage of first reading as amended.
Do we have a motion?
I move that bill number 7981 be placed on first reading as amended.
Fair.
Second.
All in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Any opposed? Motion passes.
An ordinance of the City of North Kansas City, Missouri, regulating virtual currency kiosks within the city limits to protect residents from fraud, establishing registration, zoning, signage, and enforcement requirements supplemental to Section 361.1100 RSMO, and providing for penalties, severability, and an effective date.
I move that bill number 7981 be placed on second and final reading and passed as ordinance number 9778
Does that need to be as amended as well?
as amended.
Second.
Call the roll.
It was me.
Okay. Councilmember Saper?
Yes.
Councilmember Bailey?
Yes.
Councilmember Kane?
Yes.
Councilmember Alvarez?
Yes.
Councilmember Wales?
Yes.
Councilmember Larson?
Yes.
Councilmember Click?
Yes.
An ordinance of the City of North Kansas City, Missouri, regulating virtual currency kiosks within the city limits to protect residents from fraud, establishing registration, zoning, signage, and enforcement requirements supplemental to Section 361.1100 RSMO, and providing for penalties, severability, and an effective date.
Item 20.
Consideration of an ordinance approving a license agreement between the city and 18th and Swift LLC for installation of an awning above a sidewalk adjacent to McLean's. Bill number 7982, ordinance number 9779.
Who's got this one?
This one here, it's for the building that the city actually legally owns, but it's under a Chapter 100. The Oxbow Apartment Building, first floor, east side of that building for McLean's. 18th and Swift is is the lessor right now under a lease with the city, and they're the ones that have asked for this. Since they're going to encroach upon city right-of-way with both the awning and then the fence that'll go around, they need to have a license agreement. I won't go over what that is, but it's simply stated, it's just a right to be able to use it so long as the city says they can use it, and we have the right to revoke it at any time. They have to provide insurance and indemnify the city should something, negative happen. It allows them we've done this a number of places in different places throughout the city. But I'll be glad to answer any questions. It just allows the business to expand a little bit, especially here in the summer months.
Yep. It allows for sidewalk dining and the sun not to beat down on your eyes when you're sitting on said sidewalk or in the windows of the cafe. Questions? Do we have a motion?
Motion.
Motion for a first reading.
Second.
Okay. We need a motion for a first reading, right? Okay. Let's try that one more time.
Second.
All in favor?
Yes.
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 Any opposed? Motion passes.
An ordinance adopting and approving a license agreement by and between the City of North Kansas City, Missouri and 18th and Swift LLC regarding the use of certain city right-of-way by McLean's Market, generally located at 1720 Swift Street in North Kansas City, Missouri, along the west side of Swift Street and south of 18th Avenue for erection of an awning above and a fence upon the public sidewalk.
I move that bill number 7982 be placed on second and final reading and pass as ordinance number 9779.
Second.
Call the roll.
Councilmember Saper?
Yes.
Councilmember Bailey?
Yes.
Councilmember Kane?
Yes.
Councilmember Alvarez?
Yes.
Councilmember Wells?
Yes.
Councilmember Larson?
Yes.
Councilmember Click?
Yes.
An ordinance adopting and approving a license agreement by and between the City of North Kansas City, Missouri and 18th and Swift LLC regarding the use of certain city right-of-way by McLean's Market, generally located at 1720 Swift Street in North Kansas City, Missouri, along the west side of Swift Street and south of 18th Avenue for erection of an awning above and a fence upon the public sidewalk.
Item 21.
Consideration of an ordinance approving accounts due and payable by the city through May 1st, 2026. Bill number 7983, ordinance number 9780.
Who wants to pay the bills?
First reading.
Second.
All in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Any opposed? Motion passes.
An ordinance authorizing payment for certain accounts due and payable by the city through May 1st, 2026.
I move that bill number 7983 be placed on second and final reading and pass as ordinance number 9780.
Second.
Second.
Call the roll.
Councilmember Saper?
Yes.
Councilmember Bailey?
Yes.
Councilmember Kane?
Yes.
Councilmember Alvarez?
Yes.
Councilmember Wells?
Yes.
Councilmember Larson?
Yes.
Councilmember Click?
Yes.
An ordinance authorizing payment for certain accounts due and payable by the city through May 1st, 2026.
All right. Staff comments.
Only two tonight. There is an administrator approval report. This was Bedford Lift Station generator, I believe. This was the deduction that we put in there. Another deduction, so we're on a roll. Other than that, Kim has a couple comments, and then Anthony.
Evening, Mayor and Council. Just a quick couple of events coming up. The Tim C. Crummett Foundation Committee would love to invite you to Civic Canvas's Art Dedication and Art Walk. That is on Saturday, May 16th, so not this Saturday, but next Saturday. The dedication will kick off at 10 a.m., and we will, after comments, be doing the facilitated walk along Armour. And the first of those public art pieces is already installed. They did that this weekend, and it is the utility box at Armour and Erie. So if you'd like to get a sneak peek, it is already up. And then the heavily anticipated River Forest Park ribbon cutting event. We have a date. It is Thursday, June 18th, 4 p.m. More details to come, but please mark your calendars.
Woohoo. Anthony.
Just real quick, we had some event numbers from the community shred and recycle event we had last weekend. Actually, 2 weekends ago, I think about it. So there was 262 cars that came through. Over a ton of paper was collected and shredded, and there was over 7,437 pounds of electronic recycling.
Goodness.
Included. So really good turnout. I don't have the numbers from last year, but I know that all those numbers have increased, is what we were talking about. And shout out to Sarah Shekels, who coordinates that entire thing for us. And yeah, it's been a really successful event each year.
Awesome. And we talked about maybe next year exploring moving that to the weekend after the garage sale so that if people have things that don't sell, they can then donate them. So maybe we'll explore that next time. All right. Any further staff comments? Zach's phone, you got anything to say? I got to do it to you. All right. Perfect. Council member comments, starting with Council member Saper.
No comments this evening.
Councilmember Bailey.
Just like to shout out April from City Hall for helping out for the dog vaccine clinic. If no one's heard about that, they do rabies vaccines every year for free for residents, and you get to swing by, get your pet license, and feel like you've checked the box appropriately. So highly recommend. Thank you, April.
Councilmember Kane.
Yes, so first off, it's a bike, walk, and wheel week. So the weather's mild, the weather's nice, except when it isn't. So be sure to go outside, and if there's a reason not to travel in your car, now's a good time to take it. So I also want to thank Mike Nichols and city staff for letting Park Lofts come on our civic crawl that was on the 22nd of April. And letting residents kind of get a tour of their city hall, council chambers, getting to ask questions for department. Yes, sit up at the dais and get the whole experience. I also want to thank Zach Stone King with the fire department for letting us go and take a look at the fire station and get a tremendous view of North Kansas City. So I appreciate that. I also just want to, as a kind of a general reminder, June 1st, fares are returning for the KCATA. And that's going to apply to fixed routes and our flex bus, the 298. So just as a reminder for folks, that's $2 for one-way fare, but they do have a fare capping policy at $4 per day if you use the same payment method. So if you want more information on that, just go check out Ride KC's website under fares. They will have more information. Thank you.
Councilmember Alvarez.
Yeah, I just want to thank Connor Fitzgerald for coming tonight and reminding us of our budget and trying to remember to keep that at bay so that we don't keep overspending. That's something that we really need to look at. I'll keep it short. Just also, besides the arts beautification for the city on the 16th, it's also the citywide garage sale. So probably have a lot of people out and about that day. So, and other than that, that's it. Also, today is Cinco de Mayo, so happy Cinco de Mayo to everyone.
Olay.
Okay.
Councilmember Wells.
Yeah, I was tonight thinking about Rich's comments from the North Kansas City Business Council about building bridges between the industrial district here and the businesses in North Kansas City and the residential population, which I think is great sentiment. He talking about that got me thinking about the former mayor Elizabeth Short, who's over on the wall there, who in the 1970s had a festival in town called the Hearts and Flowers Festival. It was a little hippie inspired. It was the early 70s after all, and very much art and music focused. But at the same time, she facilitated tours of some of the industries here in Kansas City, or North Kansas City, for citizens. And I just think that's as I was sitting here looking at her tonight and thinking about that, I just think I was just enjoying the sentiment of building those bridges. But other than that, I've just had an amazing time getting to know people here at the city that are involved, either elected officials or city staff. Everyone's been really kind, and I'm just really happy to be up here and learning more and more every day. And yeah, so that's it. So thank you, everyone.
Councilmember Larson.
I'll keep it brief. I want to thank Connor Fitzgerald, George Schluter, and Rich Groves for coming out to speak. I want to remind everybody that if there's any message you want the city council to hear or your neighbors, please take advantage of our open comment section. That's all I got.
Councilmember Click.
Don't have a ton tonight either, I guess. Staff, thank you as always on top of everything. Just per usual, encourage everybody to pay attention to what's going on at the state, at the federal level. Call your representatives. It really does affect all of us and our families pretty significantly. So that's all.
All right. Brings it around to me. We've had some wild weather, and so thank you to Public Works for all the storm cleanup. It is a very thankless job to be out there in the rain and cleaning up the limbs so that we can all wake up and pretend it didn't happen. I got pictures from a number of people who had full-size trees fall over their driveway, and those were gone in the morning. And I took full credit in the morning for that. As Linda mentioned, garage sale, third Saturday of the month. So sell all your wares and then donate what you don't. I have had the opportunity to go on a couple of levee tours recently to talk with stakeholders from Kansas City and the levee district and even Port KC on some opportunities to perhaps clean up some of the underbrush down at the levee. There's a lot of crime, a lot of vandalism going on down on the foreshore. Fences are being cut, wires are being cut, steam lines are being punched into, and so trying to solve for some of those with the eventual goal to start programming that foreshore for public use. So we had some real good feedback from some top government officials in Kansas City. Had the opportunity to visit the Oxbow this past week, as well as an upcoming visit to 23rd and Swift, and having done Park Lofts, making the tours, and each time somebody expresses interest in a block party. So we're going to start seeing some applications come in. We've had the first come in for a block party from an apartment complex, so that's going to be a lot of fun. I think that one's at 23rd and Swift. It'll be right there on 23rd, I believe, once approved. So it's block party season, everybody. Again, get those permits in. We have $400 for you to close down the block and party with your friends. Please take advantage of that. Had an opportunity to cut the ribbon at a new little library in the Avenues at 23rd and Knox. Carlin, I'm going to mess up, Carlin Fiddler built with some of her neighbors, built a little library, and we brought out the big scissors and cut the ribbon. It was amazing to have a group of neighbors be fully supportive of such a fun little project there. And then we are, as my hat would suggest, headed down the trail of Northtown 2040. We're leaning into a master plan and a strategic plan. So I'm going to get the pleasure of sitting pretty soon in a room with all of our staff and all of our elected official friends and working on what's next, how we're going to work together for the goals. And so if you are watching this and you have goals, please reach out to your council members so they can bring that to the meeting. And with that, that is all I have. Moving on to item 25.
Consideration of a request to hold and recess into an executive session as requested by the city administrator to be held on this date pursuant to Missouri Revised Statute 610.0212, real estate matters. Real estate, real estate, real estate.
Do we have a motion?
So move.
Second.
Call the roll.
Councilmember Saper?
Yes.
Councilmember Bailey?
Yes.
Councilmember Kane?
Yes.
Councilmember Alvarez?
Yes.
Councilmember Wells?
Yes.
Councilmember Larson?
Yes.
Councilmember Click?
Yes.
At this time, the live stream and Channel 2 will cut off. There will be no further votes or business this evening. Thank you for tuning in.